crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's gonna become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to bring back the lost art of genuine human connection. And I got one last thing to say, and I'm dead serious when I say this. I genuinely, and Maddie genuinely believes we were put on earth to do exactly what we're doing now. We love doing this. We love meeting new people, and it just gets us so freaking excited. We think you as family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground, or not perpendicular, like horizontal to the ground, hanging at a 90-degree off a stop sign. And I was like, what the hell did I just get myself into? And since that, we had a budding, flourishing relationship, been best friends our whole lives. Obviously, life got in the way. You go to college, you get married, you start businesses, things happen. Fittingly enough, our midlife crisis brought us back together, hence the name. We're older than most people in this space, but we found NFTs about a year ago, and then we said, you know what, we're really gonna create a company. As we get more connected, as we go into the metaverse, what we're about to do is meeting new people, having real raw conversations. We think it's going to become a lost art. So we're here to make that happen, to bring it all to you, and to help you expand, learn, and grow. And we came up with a very simple mission statement. That mission statement is to... What up, folks? Stargirl, we love you. Always can count on you being here. We got a great night tonight. It's going to be an amazing conversation. I cannot wait. Since we don't have Maddie, he is sick as a dog. He called me earlier and was like, bro, I really want to come on the podcast, but I can't because he could barely freaking talk. So with that, it's just Mikey G and Damjan. I said that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah, really well.
Dude, Damjan, I fucking nailed it. I'm going to screw it up multiple times tonight, but at least I got it right the first time. That's what matters. So we're going to do this typical format, just minus Maddie. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little kind of background of Damjan, where he came from, and then we're going to go straight into it. Hardcore, famous, world famous midlife crisis question. So let's start with the professional kind of resume background. We'll start in the fact that he has been in investing development sector for over 15 years. Throughout that journey, he's created his own construction company. And then recently, what'd you say, about a year ago, Damjan? Fusion's been
No,
around?
it's been over a year and a half
So a
today.
year and a half ago, founded FusionXYZ, which we'll be obviously talking about later, and has since subsequently raised capital to keep the company growing and being able to continue to fund his beautiful Web3 vision and ecosystem. But before we say hi, we also got the fun fact. Now, he is different in the sense that most people, they stress out about this. He just scattershotted a ton of stuff. So I'm going to highlight a couple fun facts. One, he's a history buff. Two, this is a new one. Likes to traverse dormant volcanoes.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, bro, because like I'm not gonna 100% trust somebody that told me this thing's dormant and who knows what the hell can happen, but that's damn impressive.
Yeah.
Health and wellness is an insanely big part of his life. If you can see, I mean, he's being a little humble, but you know, I've got a bigger view of his video. He's jacked, people. The dude has been working on health for a while. And then finally, he's into boxing and kickboxing as well, going along with the health thing. Damjan, welcome to the show, brother. I said it right again. How you doing, dude?
Pleasure. Really good, Mikey, and thank you for having me on. Always putting a smile to my face, which is good. This aura, so thank you once again.
Absolutely. Have you ever done kind of a long format live podcast like this before?
Yeah, I have. I've done it multiple times with various different people. It's just talking to friends, man, and sharing experiences and life. We all have a story, a journey. Some more colorful than others now, and some might have colorful ones in the future. So we're all human, and we all go through a hell of a lot of bad stuff, good stuff, everything, which is
Dude,
awesome.
you are speaking my language, man. This is why we do what we do. This gets me excited, conversations like this, and people that like you that understand it. So we'll go straight into it, man. World famous midlife crisis question. Please tell us how you got the seat you're sitting in today. Star Wars
Yeah.
episode 1, 2, and 3. Again, 1 is your childhood, 2 is your professional career till Web3, and then 3 is Web3 and beyond. So let's start with the childhood, man. Cannot wait to hear it.
Yes. So my childhood is an extremely colourful one. So I came to Australia. I'm currently in Australia, from former Yugoslavia as a little kid. Unfortunately, I was exposed to a lot of crazy stuff coming from a wartime country, civil war back then. Saw a hell of a lot of things that no human being, yet alone a child, should see.
Right.
Wouldn't go too deep into it, but I'm sure you can imagine and put things together.
I've seen war
Um,
movies and they're not pretty.
yeah. Well, yeah, it was terrible. Anyway, so seeing all of this, we ended up losing everything back home. When I mean everything, all of our wealth, every single thing you can possibly think, and also, it's sort of a part of your soul in a sense back then. I know it's a little bit deep, but it takes a long time to get something like that back and to get back to normality. So anyway, we migrated as refugees here to Australia. We for a better life.
How old were you when that happened?
I was still like I was in the middle, so I was just turning 10. I remember I had my 10th birthday here.
Wow.
Not a word of English.
Right.
Some people would say I still have a bit of an accent, but when I speak to Americans or Canadians, they go, "No, you don't. You sound Australian." But here, I definitely have an accent, right?
Right.
So yeah, so that was sort of like a really deep and quick way to fast track that part of my childhood.
Right.
Essentially, growing up was a mixture of really amazing memories that I hold on to. Like with my grandfather that passed away and all this stuff, I got wonderful memories with him back home. And then obviously the negative ones, so you got to take the good with the bad, and
Right.
it made me that I am today. And
Mhm.
I'm very fortunate enough to I guess, be alive, right? In
Right.
many different ways, because a lot of people weren't.
Right.
Anyway, so we came here for a better life. We started off with nothing, with literally, like you hear in movies, a suitcase and your bare minimum,
Wow.
which is laundry and a couple of different things. And yeah, fast forward to me being 35 now, here I am in front of you. However, it was really challenging when I did come, because I honestly didn't obviously know a word of English.
Right.
It was the first time in my life that I actually saw different nationalities all together, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like different races, different everything you can think about. So to me, it was like I was stepping into this unknown alien world, right? Which I was so unfamiliar with, but I was so fascinated by it and captivated by it that I always, just wanted to absorb everything and wanted to get involved amongst everything.
Right.
However, I was brought up extremely rough and extremely, how to say it in a nice way, very disciplined, very controlled, right?
Okay.
At home, there's a right and a wrong. Um, there is very strict guidelines that you have to abide by. There is times that you have to stick by. It's very old school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Under the belt, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So back then, I used to hate being brought up like that.
Mm-hmm.
However, now that I think about it, I wouldn't change a single thing. I'll be honest with you. It
Ooh.
taught me rules. It taught me to stick to my core values. It's molded my morals to where they are today, and I think those are extremely important factors in life, especially in the day and age that we live in, which a lot of people seem to be, missing quite a lot of these values and morals and so forth, unfortunately, right?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, I can take this story many of 1,000 different ways. So you just let me know which way you want me to take it, brother, and we'll be
So
done.
you have a
Yeah.
unique circumstance where obviously probably don't want to go too deep into the war torn part,
You,
because
you can go deep, man. I
because
don't mind. I'm not
I
shy.
mean, well, so here's a better way to get at it.
Cool.
You already got to like 35, so we want to go deep on episode 1. So a couple
Yeah.
things that stood out to me in what you said. You brought up your grandfather, so I'd like to go deeper
Yeah.
on him and his influence and the good memories there. If you're open on the 10-year of the
Yeah.
bad stuff, it is not obviously describing the bad stuff, but how do you think that experiencing that molded you, and what are some of the methods, because I think it's good for people to hear
Yeah.
how you conquered that, because there's a lot of people struggling through really shitty things. I mean, I grew up in Baltimore, man. There was a lot of kids that had, no parent figure, and anyone that they did was addicted to drugs, and they were in a really poor, shitty situation, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yours is a different version of that. And I would love to hear, looking back, what do you think helped get you through such a kind of horrific time, and then maybe lead into your grandfather as well?
100%. The way, the best way I can describe it to you is that it taught me not to take anything for granted. And when I mean
Mm,
anything, literally anything, right? That includes moments, that includes memories, that includes physical things, that includes my mental health,
mhm,
my actual physical health,
mhm,
which is another thing that I struggled with when I was young.
mhm.
I was, unfortunately, I had asthma back then, and I had bronchitis and all sorts of things that happen on a regular. And I had a specific disease, which was a part of this yellow fever disease and žutica that we call it in my language. And I ended up in hospital like a lot as a child, essentially.
Right.
And when we did get out of the concentrated war zone, I felt ill, and I struggled, man. Like a kid, my mum ended up. All right, I'm jumping in charges. So my mother ended up still being in the war zone. I
Okay.
ended up out with my grandmother, right, and my uncle at the time, which is my mother's brother, right.
Right.
So because I got sick. My mum wasn't around at the time, and
Right.
my dad as well. I was in hospital, got put into hospital, which is completely foreign to me, on every single machine that you can possibly think of. And
Wow.
I remember at the time, like I've got tattoos now and everything like that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I hate needles. And I know this is so weird to say, and
Right.
you probably heard it a million times, but when like I just hated needles. Anyway, so I just remember like 8 doctors trying to pin me down and, screaming for life itself and, starting to put infusions in me. It's like full on horrific for a kid, right?
Right.
Anyway, where I'm going with it, all of these things that I experienced then almost seem so insignificant now. They hardened me. They hardened me physically. They hardened me emotionally. I'm an emotional creature, even to this day, right?
Right.
So if I care about somebody or I care about something that I believe in, I'm extremely emotionally invested.
Right.
However, it's hardened me enough to know when to put up a wall, when to take the emotion completely out of it. That can
Mm.
be, something personal, it can be something business related, it can be a decision and so forth. So you build these little characteristics along the way,
Right.
which they're ever evolving. So I haven't got the template, right? There's no ultimate template to
Right.
life.
Right.
There's no ultimate template to living well. It all comes down to you as a person and what you take out of it and what you're interested in, right? And as a child as well, because growing up in that sort of circumstance, we weren't fortunate enough, to have straight away video games and specific toys and stuff like that. So to put into perspective, my playground was getting bottle caps, right? Bottle caps, the metal ones that you
Mm-hmm.
get from the old school bottles, bashing them with a rock as an example, making them flat, and we played almost like Tazos with them, right? So stuff like that, and we used to use them as a sort of a currency in order to exchange for different bottle caps and stuff. So this started developing already a mindset of me. Okay, how do I make something so I can trade something to get something back in an exchange? Stuff like that. Like
Interesting.
little bits and pieces, really, really like fascinating when you think about it back now.
Right.
Uh, that was one aspect of it, and then another aspect was basically if I had one toy car or something that I would have gotten made or gifted to me, I would create a whole story in my head that I could actually play along with for like 8 hours of the day, And I think about this, and I'm like, 8 hours is like huge, man. And as a kid to be doing this, like you're really developing storytelling in your head. You're developing scenarios and all sorts of stuff went through my head, and I can really recall it. That's one thing that I'm really happy with, that I can recall a lot of these thoughts, even though it was, almost 30 plus years ago, when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old.
Dude, that you bring up a couple really interesting things before we get to, because I'm interested about your grandfather and just your parents in general as well too. But one, you visualizing stories. There's been tons of studies that come out that say people that read in pictures in movies, basically. And I don't know if you like when I read, I try to I don't even try. It naturally happens that I'm visualizing. What the Hunger Games looks like, right? Well, honestly, one of the most disappointing moments in my life is when I went to see the first Hunger Games and saw the cornucopia, and it was this shit little steel shed. I had this like massive Mount Everest like cornucopia vision in my mind. I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is stupid. So the fact that you were doing that at a young age is interesting to me because that definitely impacts creativity. What are your thoughts around that? Do you think that did help you out?
100%. And I don't know if you agree, but this also leads into something that I strongly believe in, and
Mm.
it's manifesting. So
Ooh.
imagination leads to manifesting. It's happened time in, time out in my life, throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes quicker than other times. Other times, like I remember manifesting something, strongly, passionately believing in it, putting it out there, right? However, manifesting something, a lot of people get confused with, hey, I'm just going to put it in my mind. It's going to magically like fucking appear in front of
Right.
me in the next 2 weeks. It doesn't work like that. It's something that you're yearning towards, but willing to work towards, right?
Yep.
And once you start having that, it's almost like a blinding addiction to where you want to be and what you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Things actually happen. You start attracting the right people.
Right.
You start attracting, the right roads to take and so forth. Obviously, negative stuff can come in between, but you just got to learn as a human being to adapt, to identify these things, and to just cut them off and sideline them straight away. I did that the hard way, so I will admit, I let a lot of negative things come into my life, negative people, and
Right.
the positive, with the positive comes the negative. Most of the time.
Oh yeah.
I didn't learn straight away, and because I'm always giving, and that's how I was brought up: give, give, give. But you give it selflessly. A lot of people are just used to take, and then you end up getting hurt in the end, right? Regardless of what it is, whether it's something in friendship, whether it's something in business, it can be viewed many different ways, right?
Right.
But however, when I did identify that, and when I was really conscious of it, it changed my life for the better.
Right. And so do you have any off the top of your head about, because again, I think, we talk about this a lot on the show, is you can read all the self-help books, or let's take manifesting for an example, right? There's tons written on it. But until you hear it from a person that describes it in a way that resonates with you, it really doesn't do anything for you, right? It's a good thing. And you said something interesting about you think when you first read about it, you manifest it and it just magically happens. Well, that's not the case. Can you take us through a time where what it felt like to manifest and the outcome of that? Do you have any examples?
Yeah, I do. I've got many examples actually. So there's actually many, many examples. So manifesting comes with a bucket of things to me personally. Manifesting comes with one specific key thing that you need, which is having an open mind and being coachable. Right? I talk about this a hell of a lot of times. So coachability is a big part of my life, right? What coachability is essentially having an open mind to always learn, to take criticism on board, to make sure you adjust your thought process, and a hell of a lot of other components that come with it. That goes hand in hand. So when you start manifesting things, and when certain opportunities come your way, you can't be closed-minded, right? You've heard that saying before, when there's a guy out in the sea and he's about to drown, as an example, and he's praying to God, and all of a sudden he sees a boat come past, and he's like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he's like, "No, God's going to save me. You can go past."
Right.
Then another person comes past, and anyway, point of the story is all these people come past. The guy goes to heaven, and he asks God, "Hey, why didn't you save me?" He goes, "Hey, I've sent you the boatman, I've sent you the fisherman, I've sent you everyone, but you were, that's the analogy that I'm trying to get
Love
at."
that analogy. Yeah.
So it's about identifying these times in your life, and these possibilities and people that come to you in your life, and whether they're the right fit and how you're going to take them. It's either going to be a lesson, or it's going to be a mistake, or it's going to be one or the other. So
Right.
how to accept, how to make a positive out of it, how to move forward with it, right?
Interesting.
So that happened with me, as an example, with my first car. I'll go back to the basics.
Right.
So growing up, I was working at Hungry Jack's for $7.62 an hour.
Hungry
AUD.
Jugs? What the heck is that?
Hungry Jack's. So it's like it's the Australian version of Burger King, right?
I thought you said Hungry Jugs. I'm like, man, did you get in the porn industry early? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah,
dude?
no, that's my accent. No, Hungry Jack's.
Gotcha.
Right? So,
Hungry Jacks.
yeah. But now I can't get that out of my mind. That's funny. Anyway, so Hungry Jack's was one of my first jobs when I was extremely young, like 14, 15, I can't remember now. And I was doing it obviously part-time, and I was taking home $7.62 an hour, which is AUD, obviously.
Right.
So it's like $4 USD, whatever
Right.
it is, right? And, I was working my butt off, man, to get this car. And it was it was the car to have at the time, and back then the car cost $16,000, and to us that was a lot of money. When I mean a lot, it was almost unimaginable to obtain something like this.
Right.
So I remember busting my ass off, like flipping burgers, man, and doing all sorts of things, which I enjoyed, mind you, because I got to meet a lot of cool people and
Right.
different friends and so forth. But I kept manifesting it and thinking about it, and it was so stuck in my head that it was an obsession.
Right.
Long story short, I was probably 6 to 7 months out from getting to my goal, and then I was fortunate enough to have a couple of my family members come together, and for my birthday,
Yeah.
put in a little bit of money to match what I had saved.
That's
And
pretty cool.
little bits like pieces like that, and you can take that whichever way you want. Manifesting, there's different levels to it. This is just a really simple, straight to the point,
Right.
example of it.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I love that example. How about in your, do you have anything in your professional career? Because I think it helps to hear for people to hear. I mean, that was a goal and that was an amazing story, but something maybe with mentorship, leadership, or things that you've experienced as you've traversed entrepreneurship in the professional career.
Most certainly. So as I was growing up, I was in my spare time. I'd always, read books. I try to stay on top of trends and try to learn about every single possible thing that I can. I didn't discriminate. So like you said at the start, I was a little bit of and I still am like a history fanatic. So I love history. I love ancient history specifically, and I learned a lot through the books of that, because a lot of people forget, just because it's ancient doesn't mean it wasn't modern, and some of that technology can be applied today and they still wouldn't know how to actually replicate it, right?
And history repeats itself, brother.
Yeah, pretty much in many different ways. And
Yes.
like fashion trends, man, like 20 years ago, what's out 20 years ago is coming back in today, and blah blah blah.
100%.
Anyway, yeah. But in saying that, my background and my journey of growing up was tougher than most, right? In saying that, there's other people out there that have had probably 10 times tougher than what I've had it, and I'm conscious of that as well,
Right.
right? So defining toughness and defining problems is very subjective, because what's tough to one person might not be tough to the other person, right? So I'm very open-minded with that, okay? In saying that, I did not want to live like my parents lived. I didn't want to live scared. I didn't want to live stuck in the system. I wanted to make something out of myself. It started off on a journey that I no longer follow, which is, like you got the American dream, we had the Australian dream.
Right.
You go to university, your parents tell you to go to university, you have to make them proud.
Right.
You have to get a job, you work for, 9 to 5 and you get a house.
Right.
That was that my language bullshit dream
Right.
that a lot of people have, which to me is a trap. Now, you can agree, you can disagree. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? I believed it once, and I was a part of it for a very, very long time, until I figured out that I only have one life,
Yep.
and that I can make the most of my life. And I don't want to be stuck in a bit of a prison, essentially, right?
Yep.
Like I said, it's just terminology that I'm using, but getting stuck in a way of life that you can't get out of, I reflect to it as a bit of a, prison in a way,
Oh,
So what that
100%. We talk about this a lot on the show, man. And a lot of people that are building things have similar views.
Yeah. And now, people like, how can I tell you? They like being comfortable. That's totally fine. I envy these people, right? That's awesome. I've got friends that are like that, my best friends, and I see that, but they're comfortable, they're happy. Like, the thing is, they're different. They've got their own journey. I've got my journey, right? That's how I used to see it growing up.
Yeah.
Anyway, that hustle started. I was a hustler from day one, from get go. Even after 10 years old, when we came to Australia, we moved into the western suburbs. Western suburbs here aren't the friendliest, right? So they teach you how to really, really become street smart.
Right.
Street smart is something that people underestimate a lot, especially.
Ooh.
And
talk to me a little bit more about that. What does street smart mean to you? How do you define it?
Yeah, 100%. Street smart is essentially being able to attack any situation head on and be extremely comfortable doing it, right? So it doesn't matter who you talk to, doesn't matter from what background, what situation, even if you're put in a dangerous situation, how do you get out of it, right? how do you get to what you want? How do you connect the dots? How do you connect the right people? And the list goes on and on and on, right? How to make sure you avoid bad situations? How do you position yourself to be in a preferred situation? It's so broad, especially growing up. Like we've all had colorful ways of growing up and, hustling, like selling CDs, which have music, awesome music tracks on it, which most people wouldn't know what a burnt CD is, as an example, right?
Right.
Making
We
50
do though.
cents. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Stuff like that, or finding some sort of a link between, okay, if I provide this person with, I'm just going to use, for example, fruit. This is a really weird example. Fruit for this price, because I knew a guy that supplied fruit at a farm, right? And then the local supermarket that was getting it for a lot more. And I'm like, okay, well, if I can connect the dots, I can make $10, $20 here. Like little bits like that.
No,
Always trying to
absolutely.
figure out a way of how to get ahead in any way possible.
Right.
Because that's all you have. When you
Right.
don't have anything, you're going to try to manage any possible way to make money or get ahead or learn more, and to maneuver yourself in the right direction that you want to actually strive towards.
Right. No, I love that, man. And that's kind of alluded to that. I think the story that you were going to start going into. And I think before we get into like the natural born entrepreneur of smashing bottle caps and playing games and learning currency at a really young age, love to touch on, you mentioned your grandfather. And I don't want to leave that, because since you mentioned it, it meant something to you. And I would love to hear what impact he had on you as a young child.
Yeah, look, this is it's probably the most touchy subject in my life, to be honest. So
We don't have to
he
go there
played,
if you don't want to.
no, we are.
Okay.
He played the most, dare I say, the most important role in my life.
Yeah.
The man was a role model. He's the only person, and this is over my parents as well, a little bit, was a lot closer to him in some ways, because my parents were extremely young. Okay,
Right.
so I will share this. My parents had me when they were both 18 years old. Okay,
My mom was
so
19, bro.
it's extremely young. Like
Yeah.
I'm 35. I don't, I'm not fortunate enough right now to have, a child of my own. I'm working towards that
Right.
in the
Right.
next couple of years, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
But when I reflect that, I'm thinking to myself, like, holy shit! Like my parents had me when they were 18. At 18, I had no idea where my feet were, where my head was.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's people underestimate it so much, and it's powerful, man. And like my hat goes on off to your mums and dads, that regardless of if they got pregnant and they meant it or they didn't, it's a challenge, man. It's
Yeah.
a full challenge, and kudos to them. And I can't even imagine going through it. So
Yeah.
I got high respect for these types of scenarios.
Yeah, man,
Anyway, so
just real quick, like
yeah,
same perspective too. Like when I'm 41 now, and to think that like, when I when I was what, 15, like my mom was my age, and I'm like, I couldn't even imagine having a 15-year-old. Like it changes your perspective on maybe when you get mad at them for like, I wish you would have done something a different way. You're like, dude, these people are just trying to survive at that point, right? Isn't that
yeah,
crazy to think about?
100%. And so that's where my grandfather sort of picked up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the gaps, I guess. I was a lot closer to him. I was fascinated by his life. He was probably one of the most humble, knowledgeable, and understanding people that I've ever met, and I'll probably ever meet. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yep.
And anyway, so being close to him, he was really strict on me as well. But the way he was strict with me was that he would try to always explain to me when I was wrong, right? If he would give me scenarios, he'd give me an open road to figure out, hey, listen, like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? Do you understand where this is going? A lot of, I guess, respect towards that in many different ways. It wasn't just forced as well, which is one thing. When you force things upon someone, you become a bit more rebellious. We've all been there.
Right.
But yeah, he was my outsource to a lot of things. I could talk to him about everything. With my parents specifically, I couldn't do this because it was like, you know, he was pretty much disciplined with a hammer, man. Like there's
Right.
no fucking
Well, and
right.
back to the point we were talking about, your parents probably didn't even know the answer, or to have the
Correct.
context that your grandfather had, right? Because he had lived a
Exactly.
longer life and he had more things to point to help you figure out why wrong and right, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, most certainly. And also they were young, man. Like they had their whole lives ahead of them. Like we lived. They wanted to live. They've got a kid. They've just come from this, you know, crazy shenanigans that happened overseas with this war that happened that took away their childhood, their teens, their 20s.
Right.
Like, you know, I can't think like when you start thinking about it from their perspective, and I did learn late, mind you, so you're definitely right. And I will wholeheartedly admit that. I
Right.
thought about it later in my life because
Right.
I was going through my own stuff. I had my
Mm-hmm.
own time, right? Growing
Mm-hmm.
up and, you know, working on, you know, personal shit as well, you know, confidence and this and that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, wanting to be a specific person. And anyway, we can go into many different ways. But
Right.
anyway, he played this role. I was extremely close with him. He's played a big part in who I am today, massive part in it. Unfortunately, I did lose him, give or take, just over 10 years ago to cancer. That was probably the hardest thing to see.
Right.
I literally watched his lights go out of his eyes, you
Yeah.
know. I was literally their last breath and all that. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. My we called her Grammy, which was my wife's grandma. She actually, we had hospice in the house and she passed away due to cancer as well. And that's just one of the hardest, heartbreaking things to go through, especially when she was the same thing. She kind of was the glue that kept the family together and helped people understand when people were maybe butting heads together.
Yeah.
But dude, thank you for sharing that because that's interesting. I mean, actually, it's a little therapeutic for me, man. I mean, I'm to be honest, I just went home and because I live on the west side, I live in San Diego now, and I just went home and no, my version of my hard life was my parents getting divorced. Well, that drastically affected you, a young child, right? And I just didn't realize how much I had buried this stuff, and it affected me. And you know, going back brought some of those feelings back because I'm out here doing my own thing, and I had to have the kind of same conversation we were talking about. It's like, listen, I gotta recognize my parents were young, trying to figure that shit out, and it's I either gotta get over it and accept it for what it is and move on, or just let this constantly bother me. And it's obviously option one in my mind is the better one. But it's still just not easy and hard to go through. And it's kind of exactly what you were talking about. I didn't have the grandfather or grandmother figure to go above and beyond to like help me fill the gaps. So I'm a little jealous about that, but that's awesome to hear about your experience. Any thoughts about what I just said? Does that make sense to you?
Understand, that it all makes sense to me because I've seen it in my own family, and divorce is something that plays a massive part on the children. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean massive, into the trajectory of their life completely.
Right.
Girl, boy, regardless, it affects the way you think. It affects your future. It affects your present state, and it can change a lot of things really quickly and subconsciously as well. Because a lot of people hold on to subconscious pain. That's something that I've done for a very long time that I got rid of about 7 years ago. So
Right.
I carry all of this with me. And like you said, you bury it deep inside that. You think you're hard and you're this, you're that, but in the end, it's here. And
Yep.
if you carry it here, you don't even notice that it's seeping out in different parts of your life, and it can
Right.
actually affect different parts of your life.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I totally relate, man, and that's one of the hardest things, and it's actually one of the most common occurrences that currently happens in our society,
Yep.
which sucks. So like divorce rates are through the fucking roof,
Right.
right?
Oh yeah.
Because people rush, and that falls into that thing, that system that I spoke about at the start. Being in a system of owning your first house, finishing this, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Same thing. You're pushed towards. You need to find you need to find a guy. You need to find a girl. You need to get married. You need to settle down. And it's that sense of like rushing through your whole life, chasing things that other people think are right for you. And that's why a lot of people get hurt, because, man, you might not be ready for these things.
Right.
You know, maybe you're not ready to settle down with someone. Maybe you're not ready to do specific things and take on certain responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and yes, other people can argue, but that's the only way you're going to learn. Yes, you can learn that way.
Right.
It's the hard, but not everyone is as strong as each other.
No,
And
100%. And another way you can take that too is we might not be ready. There is the societal norms about when you should be getting married in your 20s and own a house by your 30s and have a full blown life by your 40s. And
yeah,
I will tell you, biology, there's a practical, if I hadn't been trying to have a kid later in life, there's a reason why you had to have a kid earlier in life. It's a lot easier and it's a lot less expensive. But, we concentrated, my wife went to law school. I concentrated on our career, and we knew mentally we weren't ready to have a kid yet too. So we waited later in life. Fortunately, medicine and technology has allowed that to happen. But the other thing that I was going to get to, which you bring up, is I think there's one side of the coin to that. There's societal pressures, but I think the other side of the coin is, I think we're weak mentally, man. It comes back to this discipline, right? Like, it's so easy to get a divorce and check out, and it's so easy to quit, right? Our whole society is based off of instant gratification. What are your thoughts there? Because I think that has a heavy impact into divorce rates and why relationships fall apart. Because true commitment looked in the eye is when I'm going through a major depressive order, and 99.9% of the girls that I would have been with would have told me to go fly a fucking kite. But my wife's still here and she's by my side, and it made us closer, right? Like that's an example of commitment. What are your thoughts there?
100%. So I agree with you on every single thing that you just said, right? I do agree with you as well with like you just spoke about the whole sort of the depression side of things, right? I can relate to that.
Yeah.
So I'm a man. I'm gonna, when I say I'm a man,
Right.
Male mental health is a huge thing. It's actually a huge thing, huge fucking problem. It's undermined, and men are just expected to be these big fucking strong men, right? That can take on anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into full. We can talk about 3 hours about this topic if you want alone.
Right.
But I'm very conscious of it. I'm very understanding of it because I've been there. I've had at the point in my life that I went through. And sorry, I'm veering off a little bit.
No. This is what we're here for, man.
Yeah, I didn't even understand it. I reflect back on it and I'm like, I was in a really healthy position with my career. I have the most amazing girl with me. At the time she's still with me, she's my fiance now. My family was all good. My little brother, who's like literally somebody I look up to so much, he was healthy, kicking ass in his career, which is his football, soccer career, blah, blah, blah. And I went through this crazy stage during the start of COVID as an example. And I was like, now that I reflect back, I'm like, holy fuck, man. This thing can destroy people. And it can.
Right.
Destroy you like this.
Right.
If I don't understand it, how the fuck is someone else supposed to understand it? If I don't understand my own body, my own at the time, it's scary. It's terrifying, right? But in saying that, what I personally got out of it, mine happened completely. How can I say this? Completely not the way that I expected it. With me, when I hit like the floor, when I mean the floor, I could kiss the floor. I found out that, Damjan, no one's going to help you. God's not going to help you. Your family's not going to help you. Nobody's going to help you, right? That can be there to support you. The only person that's going to help you is you.
Boom, bro. You just said it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's something that a lot of people hear. But once you, as a human being, right, once you figure this out, once you actually figure it out, once you actually make terms with it, I fucking promise you, you will become super fucking human.
Yeah.
My willpower went through the stratosphere.
Yeah.
I've never looked back. I'm so conscious of it. and I'll share this story with everybody that's willing to listen.
Yeah.
Because I can help them, because I had no one there. I figured it out, and I figured it out at the last possible moment. And it
Right.
was fucking empowering, and it was powerful. And you know what? I'm glad that I went through it.
Right, man. I love that you know we touch on this. I touch on it a lot just because depression and mental health is huge in my mind. And you know, I say this to people and I think they look at me weird because I feel so when I hit rock bottom, mine came in the form of I feel fortunate in a way that it came with a major depressive order, which was, dude, it was like overnight. I woke up the next morning, I felt like I could violently vomit all over the room, and I was like, something is deeply fucked up, right? And it was just like that.
Yeah.
It was bizarre, man. And then I went down the
Wow.
medicine and the therapy and all of this, and the medicine fucked me up even more because I'm going to a doctor and saying, hey, I'm talking to him like I've been in and out of jail my whole life. Meanwhile, I've done everything. I went to college. I had my master's degree. I've held a job for 20 years, and I'm acting like I'm stabbing people, right? And this guy's like, well, what the fuck's going on with this kid? So I go through way too many medicines in a short amount of time, which fucked me up even more. But the thing that started my journey to where I am now, and same exact, like, it's just so wild hearing you say, like, I just am so in tune with myself. I know how capable I am, and I just am excited about life. But it was the day that I looked in the mirror and I had a checklist of about 25 things as to why my life was the way it was, right? And I vividly remember going through everything, right? It was relationships, family, the fact that I moved across the country. I didn't have any friends. I didn't know anybody. And I got to the bottom, and it was just this inner voice that was like, holy fuck, man, it's you. And that was just like, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do. But at the same time, that in my mind was the beginning of my healing process. And, fortunately, I got lucky and found right medicine because I was at the point where, this is the other thing that I could go on for a bajillion years, but like when you're that bad, your brain chemicals are fucked up, right? It's a form of being sick, right? It's you in essence have cancer of the brain, but people, get so infuriated by having to scroll through Instagram and be like, oh, just put your mind to it. It's like, no, people, my mind is fucked. Like, this is not just a think yourself through it type of thing. So just the stigma around like people understanding the difference between like true mental health and then like positive vibes and working hard, right? There's two drastically different things. But you saying that just brought back all of those memories. So I 1,000% agree with you, man.
Yeah, certainly, man. And like, kudos to you, man. And just hearing that it's hard to hear it because you're a great guy, man. And for you to go through something like that, like I hate seeing that. But where you are today and how how much you've moved forward, it's the inspiring part because you got through it. That's the power in it, And you're educating and you're sharing a journey with other people that this can help because some people unfortunately never get out. Some people go down the bad path, right?
Yeah.
And just recently, we heard a story here locally of a young lady. When I mean young, she was around my age. Early 30s. Unfortunately, no longer here. And I heard this through just friends, and he was like a friend's friend, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Holy
man.
shit, man! This is terrible." But anyway, that topic is
Yeah, we could
everlasting.
spend hours on it, and it is heavy. But I mean, the core of what we're talking about is, you have to I think be the best version of yourself. Be acutely aware of who you are, what you are responsible for, as to why the way your life is currently in its current state, and then be responsible for getting yourself to a place and understanding yourself intimately on how you want to get to your future state.
Yeah.
And that all comes through many forms of mental health and support and network. Sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, go for it, man. Sorry, I interrupted.
No. That's all I was going to say.
Now, the one thing that I'll add to this, thing, it's sort of not that it bothers me, but I hear it a lot, is just people complaining. right? So they're complaining how hard this is, how hard that is. I don't have this, I don't have that.
Yeah.
And literally, I'm like, are you not in your own, like, are you not in your own fucking body?
Right.
Like, are you not in control of your body? Are you not in control of your mind?
Right.
Somebody else thinking, like, is somebody else behind the wheel?
Right.
You know, and it's just what it comes down to is the environment that you're put into.
100%.
If you're in an environment and constantly surrounded by this type of life and this type of behavior, and you're surrounded with the pressures of life that, man, I don't have a choice. I've got to go do 3 jobs. I've got to support my 3 kids. I got to put a house over them. I get all that. Like that's some hardcore shit. The situations out there that people don't, are fortunate enough to even have that.
Right.
However, in saying that, are you going to go your whole life through that same process? Like, you need to figure shit out. You
Right.
need to do whatever it takes. My motto is whatever it takes, I'll get it done.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes. How hard is, if it's hard, we're gonna have to get it done.
Right. Yeah.
There's no but.
Yeah. Yeah,
if
man.
If you're not gonna do it in 5 years, you're gonna say I should have done it 5 years ago. 5 years from then, you're gonna say you should have done it 5 years from then, and the list goes on. I've learned this the hard way.
Yeah.
Right. I've learned this because it's happened to me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Nah, it's been done. No, I'm not going to do it. No, I'm just going to let it go a little bit more. Well,
Right.
guess what? Your life keeps ticking, man.
Yeah. And we know the one thing that's the most valuable currency we have, which is time, right? So, and to your point, like, you need to go back, like, listen, man, you're an example of it. Like, bro, if you're from a war-torn country, no support network, and listen, don't have the basic needs of food on the table and a roof over your head, that is a different circumstance. But for the millions of people, just like in America, right? I think to this to myself all the time. Like, I am a white Caucasian male that was born in America. I already hit the 1% of like opportunity in life, right? Like, I have everything. As long as I have an okay home life, which I did, like, there's no excuses for me to be complaining about anything compared to the world of billions of people. Hundreds of millions of people don't have fucking clean water, man. Like, that's a situation, right? So to your point, I again 100% agree. And there is this thing in our mind because we're still, there's a great book. It's called The Sovereign Individual. Have you heard of this? Have you read it yet?
Unfortunately not.
I'm gonna send it to you. But it's talking about how society is evolving, right? And the fact that we actually really haven't actualized the information age and how, with a cell phone and an internet connection, a single human being can build the wealth of nations now. That's never been seen before in the world, right? And this has all happened over the last 150, like 100 years, really. The last century, we're seeing all of these changes, and we have yet to realize it. And we're, before we even know it, we're in the metaverse and NFT and blockchain and all the stuff we're going to talk about. And the impacts of that on an individual is just a mind-bending thing, right? So we just being acutely aware of that stuff and not being complacent, because the reason I brought that up is we're still we've thought the same way for millions of years, which is keeping ourselves safe and being comfortable, right? That's how the brain is wired. And now we're having this massive change in such a short amount of time. It's difficult to train yourself to think a different way as well. So there's just so many factors that go into it. But to your point, yeah, man, absolutely. You just got to be thankful. And the thankful and the giving back is, that starting what we were talking about, starting this, man, my whole goal, I was like, when I told Maddie and I, when we started this company, I was like, listen, man, the only thing I want to do is to get my first visual or text representation of, hey, man, I had a bad day, and what you did through your company has helped make it better or changed it for a good. And that came way quicker than I thought. And that's all I've ever wanted to do. And now it's come in the hundreds, if not thousands at this point. And that stuff just fuels me and goes me forward. Yes, money, you need money to survive and make things better, and obviously to sustain a business like this. But the main driver is that. Any thoughts there?
No, most certainly. And it's also, no, I agree with everything. And it's straightforward, right? And the other thing is money comes and goes. It's always going to come and go. No matter, people actually don't think about some aspects of things. So other people will tell you, hey, you're fortunate enough, you're this, you're that. Well, hold on a second. I'm white, I'm Caucasian, right? However, you don't know that I've come from a war-torn country. You don't know my struggles. You don't know my upbringing. So I can compare apples to apples. So it's a very touchy subject, the one you just spoke about. I do agree. Some people are more fortunate than others. But also some of those people, their parents struggled, man. They came to America, as an example, from Italy and from Greece on a fucking boat that they traveled for 2 months with nothing but socks and jocks in there,
100%.
So on a piece of string, we can go back into history when certain countries were under the rule of others for over 500 years, and they were oppressed, and they had to be put under a different religion, and so how long do you want to go back is the question, right? And in the end, you need to live in the present. Yes, the world's not a happy place. It can be a happy place, but the world's a dog eat dog world. Where in the end, it's a jungle. It is a jungle.
100%.
Look what's happening economically, right? Look what's happening in the world now, like when it comes to specific wars. And anyway, there's so much crap. I try not to think about it too much, but if you want to dive in it, it's full on. Like,
I don't watch the news, bro. I do not watch the local news. I just can't. It doesn't help me, benefit me anyway, man.
So it's intense, but like you said, a lot of people do the fight or flight, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're like, hey, we had an argument, we're going to get divorced, I'm just going back to this.
Yeah.
It's easier to move on than to fix what's there.
Yeah.
That's a shitty thing that's in our current society.
Yeah.
This wasn't the case in the 50s and 60s. People worked on their relationships.
Right.
People worked on their families, right? Because
why? I mean, there was societal pressure that it was a bad thing as well. So, there's bad products of that. But I think another way of saying what you're saying is, if you're forced to persevere through the bad times, it's the fight or flight is not just because you're unhappy or, you had a bad day. You are actually required to sit down with your significant other, the person that you're trying to work through the relationships, and really work at what is the core of the problem. And there are absolutely cases where the core of the problem is, let's not keep on doing this. And, but short of like physical abuse, verbal abuse, like the real bad shit, I think anybody can ultimately get through these things, because it really then just boils down to ladder back to what we were saying, which is like, it's your shit, right, man? You just got to deal with your shit and be comfortable with yourself. And until you can do that, you can't do anything for anyone else, really.
100%. Look, humans are amazing beings. Humans are emotional beings. Every single human in the world has their own power. Even though some can't recognize their own power, I recognize that, and I see that people are very unique. There's only one of you, and I think that's one of the most beautiful things in life, right?
100%.
Regardless of where you are in your life, you got to start somewhere. And in the end, even when you get on top of the mountain, my friends, you can lose it all in one day, right? If you're not smart about it, and that's what people don't understand. And you can start at ground zero. What matters the most is that it's all in your head, that you keep progressing, that you keep learning, keep developing, right? And to make sure, like, enjoy your fucking journey. Like, you got one. Enjoy it.
Right. Dude.
Yeah.
All of these things we've talked in, and this is what I say this a lot too, is what I love about what we do here is, like, I wasn't having the greatest week, but this conversation's already revived me. It keeps on reminding me of why I do what I do. But we're also saying, the way we're having this conversation now, listen, the principles don't change, man. Figure your shit out. Figure yourself as a human being. Work hard for a long period of time. Constantly learn. Be uncomfortable. All of the things that all of these books say, right? But the way that we're talking about it tonight could resonate with somebody in the chat or someone that watches this video a year from now and help their lives out. And that shit just gets me excited.
100%. 100%.
Awesome. So we do want to get to like Web3 and stuff. I knew this was going to be exciting, and it's already been super exciting. The only thing that I want to, and I think this is a good segue to kind of get into more of the professional career. You hinted, you touched on the fact that from a young age, you're smashing bottle caps. You're doing street hustle. You're thinking to yourself, okay, this entrepreneurship thing might be a thing that I'm interested in. Can you take us through kind of any more things you want to touch on from a childhood that influenced your entrepreneurial mindset, and then get into your professional career?
I'll share this story with you. I've shared it before with my little brother and a couple of the younger kids that I sometimes mentor, and I try to steer them in the right direction. When I mean young, I'm not an old fart by any means or form, but I was, a little bit younger, a little bit more immature, and a little bit more green, I guess. I had the thing that fueled me the most. I'm obsessed with travel, as an example, right?
Uh-huh.
And when I mean travel, it's not about traveling and just partying and doing this and that. I'm obsessed with different cultures. Like I said, ancient architecture, ancient history, and everything like that. So I really, really, really do think that we live in a time which we're the most fortunate enough. In ancient times, people wouldn't even know where Egypt was or where Rome was. Whatever the case might be. So we're very fortunate in that sense. Anyway, I figured out that doesn't matter how long it takes me, that I can achieve anything. And in saying that, it's just a matter of managing your time. So even in my 20s, early 20s, at one stage, I'm not even joking when I tell you this, I had 6 jobs. They were all casual. They were all different times, but I had my whole week back to back full. I slept maybe 6 to 7 hours sometimes when I was like fortunate enough on the weekend, but even then at work, the rest was about 4 to 5 hours, right? But it was just back to back. And the thing that I found out back then to me is that it really suited me because it wasn't boring. I was going from one to another. It was always doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go from like a video store to a supplement shop.
Right.
Right. My supplement shop helping my mate out with his mechanic work. Right. Stuff like that. 6 months, I was able to fund like a 4-month trip overseas. From that 4-month trip, what I've learned already here from seeing, let's say 13 or 14 different countries, I don't know how many different cities, all of the different trends that are happening there, the way people are, the way people interact with each other, the way people interact with me, that was what I was essentially paying for.
Yes.
Now that I think about it.
Right.
Those are lessons that I saw, that I was exposed to. And most of all, people remember how you made them feel. I always say this. You can have a Rolex, man, you can have a car, you can have a big huge triple, quadruple story house. Nobody gives a shit in the end. In the end, what people care about, what I care about, is how I can make somebody feel, the impact that I can leave on their life positively, right? And along those lines, essentially. So, and the way I understood this is because I remember how they made me feel, right? So I remember, like, these memories in my head, they're everlasting. I remember these people probably forgot about me, but I remember them.
Right.
You get me?
Right.
So that's what I'm going with it. And then I started thinking and reflecting back on these moments and really started like taking it in. What does it mean? What does this mean to me? How can I like utilize this? How can I share this information and mold it into my career? How can I mold it into the conversation and the touch points that I have with other human beings, right? So all of these moments played a role into my whole being an entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. To me, it's just a hustler. Right?
Yeah.
I don't even care about the entrepreneurial stuff. I hustle. I enjoy what I do. I want to learn as many things as I possibly can within reason. Obviously, I had one problem when I was growing up as well. I'll say this, that I took on too much.
Right.
Right. So taking on too much, I'm not giving enough focus to the one thing that I should be focusing on.
Right.
So I spread a lot too thin.
Right.
So when you figure that out as well, you start bringing it in and zoning it in, and you become extremely powerful in what you do.
Right. Right, dude. Beautiful, beautiful story. I think we're brothers from another mother, man. I mean, I use the analogy in of my life or the experience of my life, and this was just moving from the East Coast to the West Coast. Um, I thought that move was going to be a massive, boon to my career, and I was going to learn so much more. But what really happened was learning, because DC, Washington, Capitol Hill politics works way different than Silicon Valley startup world. So I learned more about how businesses operate and honestly myself, right? And what you were kind of getting to is like that travel molded you as like how you want to act as a human, how other humans act, psychology, all of these other things that I had no clue because all I was focused on, and that's all you've been told to be focused on from a hyper young age, is career and getting the bigger title, right? But all of the other stuff is what really impacted me from that move, not the job stuff.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to hear you say that as well.
No, good that it resonates. Likewise, man.
It's all resonating, man. It's all resonating. So yeah, I love that story. Anything else as to or just take us through kind of now you're you already had a really interesting childhood. You've been growing up, you're impacted by your family. You're starting to realize quickly you don't want to be part of the cookie cutter dream. You said you might have done some of the cookie cutter dream. Take us through that journey and any of the entrepreneur mindset impacts that you've had throughout. I'd love to hear that. And then we'll get into Web3.
Cool. So just to clarify, how I got out of that cookie cutter dream, or
No, take us through the fact that you even went through it, because everything that I've heard up to now sounds like from a younger age you thought entrepreneurship was interesting.
yeah,
And that you didn't want to be a part of the cookie cutter, but it seems like you might have traveled that. So just give us the story. Like what happened?
yeah.
What did you do?
So when I was in high school, I was a bit of a bratty, mischievous student.
Yeah.
Wasn't My attention span wasn't very long. Let's
Right.
just leave it. I also went through this. I don't know if any of you guys can resonate with. I'm sure you can. I went through a stage, and I'll never forget it in my life, that I had the pleasure of a teacher telling me in year 9, okay, that you are never gonna, me and one of my best friends at the time, you are never gonna amount to nothing. You're never gonna get a job, all this shit. And I remember just looking at it and I'm like, dude, I'm a kid. You know what I mean? Anyway, I'll never forget that.
I
It
had that,
stood
bro.
weak.
I
Yeah,
had
it
that.
stood weak, right? And I'm like, think to myself, I'm like, you know what, fuck yeah. Back then, I'm like, and it was subconscious. Anyway, so I wanted to make my parents happy. I did a Bachelor of Health Science, Musculoskeletal Therapy, which is in natural medicine and all sorts of stuff. So finished that degree. Then I went in and did a postgrad in law. Then I did a whole bunch of crap, a whole bunch of interesting stuff, which I still cherish. I
Right.
don't regret it. It's discipline. It's something that I thought I was interested at the time. I was really young, and at the same time, I was working other jobs, right?
Right.
But in saying that, this is when the mentorship comes into play that you touched on at the start of this conversation, which I haven't forgotten about. So at a very young age, I learned how to be coachable. So how to have coachability is something that's forever learning. Have I mastered it? No, I haven't. And I'm 35. Sometimes you do fall back into your own little habits, right? Whether it's in your DNA or whatever it is, you need to reset, focus. Okay, we need to start going forward again, right? So that I have to do a couple of times a year to really like wind myself back, identify, okay, you're not on your path anymore, you're going backwards, you need to reset and you need to move forward. So anyway, I was fortunate enough to come across several mentors in my life, but it was towards my late 20s. Essentially, I've already, being exposed to quite a lot of different business opportunities, failures, wins, everything in between. And these mentors made a massive difference, man. When I mean a massive difference, huge difference in my life. The trajectory, everything that I could possibly tell you. It is literally concentrated knowledge. It was 50 to 60 years of their life that I've learned in no less than 1 or 2 years.
Right.
That so powerful that if you have a chance to come across, or if you're fortunate enough to come across, or even to reach out to somebody that inspires you, you're either going to get a yes or a no. Who cares?
Right.
Right. Try. One of them came into my life, and that's because I started working for him. It was a gentleman named Wally Mega. He was Slavic as well. He came from former Yugoslavia, but he came a lot earlier. Came with nothing. The guy's what net worth is something that some people dream of, but he came from humble beginnings.
Right.
And the reason he took me on board and saw me as a bit of as a son to himself is because he saw my passion resonated with him when he was a kid. Right. So he saw himself pretty much a picture of himself when he looked at me, right? That's how it happened in layman's terms. We became really close friends. The guy was an absolute wealth of knowledge, and because I was open-minded, he was willing to share it. And it's not just taking it in and coming out the other way. You learn it, you apply it, you make it your own, right? You still apply specific parts. I'm not saying you copy the person from start to finish. In the end, you're your own human being. You've got your own essence, your soul, everything, right? So once I saw the possibilities, and once I realized, not just him, but like I've seen people on TV, I've read about people, I've seen people around me go from zero to hero in whether it's 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, they achieved it. Everyone does it in their own time.
Right.
The problem is that people think it's too hard to obtain, or it's going to take me X amount of years, or whatever the case. No one thinks everything. People want to be gratified overnight. People want to be fucking millionaires overnight. They want to be healthy overnight. They want to do so many things overnight. You can't do it overnight.
Right.
You can do something overnight, right? And that's actually put this first step forward in order to obtaining your goal.
Right.
That's an achievement in itself.
Right.
You taking initiative, regardless of what it is, regardless of getting your diet in order, right? Doesn't mean if, like, as an example, if you've got health problems, whatever they might be, some health problems are extremely hard. I'm not talking about chronic diseases or anything. I'm talking about the general wellness.
Yeah.
Start somewhere. 1 meal a week, just one. 2 meals a week the next week, and so forth and so forth. Gradual. No one's asking you to become Hercules or Zenith from the Warrior Princess overnight.
Right.
Just pop. But anyway, random. Anyway, so I'm getting off track a little bit, but they taught me these principles, these values of starting somewhere and progressing. Don't think too much about the money. And I'll tell you now, I was driven by money when I was younger because of the way I was brought up. I had it in my mind. I had to make $50,000 this year, $100,000 the next year, 200, then 300,000, and I ended up getting to that across a 10-year span in sales, and I was selling homes and townhouses, standalone homes, land. I was doing all sorts of stuff. However, it's just a never-ending journey to nothing, almost. So that's what he got to the end. You get it all, and you're like, what now?
Right.
So I changed and I shifted my focus towards progress. And once I changed that, and once I just started focusing on progress, I lost conception of time when it comes to Monday, whether it's Monday or Sunday. Like me and my business partner and co-founder, George, for example, of Fusion, sometimes we turn around to each other. I go, is it Wednesday or is it Friday? Literally, I kid you not. Just do not know, right? Nothing wrong with that. Weekends, Monday, doesn't matter at all. That's what he got to. Some people might not live like that. That's how we sort of progress through life now currently.
Right.
Because we make the moment count. Anyway, so where I was going with it, they enabled me to see that progression is probably, to me now, and it's not probably, it is the most important thing. If I can progress a little bit by little bit in parts of my life that I'm interested in, your progress might be different to mine because you have different goals to me.
Right.
Right. So they can vary, but if you're progressing, guys, that's the most important thing because you're going forward.
100%.
You're not You're not a hamster running on a wheel that we're doing. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
in the current system that we live in as
So
well.
define progress to you, because people I think would interpret you making 100, 200, 300 and more money. That's progress, maybe in monetary. You mean progress based on your goals?
Well, progress based on what you want to achieve, like I said. All right. Monetary is one thing. Money is great. Like, guys, it's going to enable you to do different things in your life. You're going to be a bit more comfortable. In the end, you're going to be one person, whether it's in a one-bedroom house or a mansion, or, you're still going to be that same person, right? You can share your wealth with others. And that's what the definition of wealth to me is: helping others and making people smile regardless. It's not giving it away and getting them on holidays and that, but actually changing people's lives for the better.
Right.
I think the older I get, the more conscious I am of that, putting smiles on people's faces. And the more money you have, and wealth, whatever the wealth measure is, I don't know, people define wealth in many different ways. We just came back to Dubai as an example.
Right.
We were there doing our raise, and some of the wealth that's there, dude, is mind-blowing, mind-boggling, right? We were surrounded with people, by people, and we were with people that the definition of, and I'm not just saying this, like, this is full laying it out on the table. The definition and the perception of $10 million to them, as opposed to $10, not $100, $10 to me is wow.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
It's good. And what it came down to, it's almost the emotional factors going out of it. Like, it's almost the emotions taken out of the value of the money after a certain point.
Right.
It's a really weird thing to dive into, but what I mean is, at one point or another, it just becomes digits on a piece of paper.
Right.
Or on a screen. But to the everyday mums and dads and everyday people like us, what that $10 is going to get you, how it's going to get you to the next step, what it's going to put in front of you, what type of food is going to provide to your family. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, because you eclipse a point where everything you have that you need is covered, and now the money is just, you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
The money is then just a way to travel the world and do the things that you're interested in, and then, to your point, help people do that with you as well. Because there's tons of people that have a lot of money, but it really sucks doing it alone as well.
Yeah, they're very lonely. A lot of them.
Yeah.
And they just want a friend. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts, And there's two sides to every coin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, 100%.
There's two sides, and depends what you want. In the end, you got your own journey. Be on your journey. Do the most that you can, and that's all. You can't go out of your skin, even if you wanted to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was a great detour, man. The mentor stuff makes sense. The money stuff makes sense. But your progress is the progress one. That's going to be cut into a short 100%, because that was beautiful. Progress being towards your goals is what we were getting at. And so let's kind of segue that into your progress in your mind at that point in your career, right? You're now thinking money was the progress, but you have these mentors. Anything else that you want to touch on mentors or your career before we get to when you found Web3?
Yeah, sure. So the other thing that I did want to share is two things, actually. One, which recently touched on with some of my brother's little friends, like, that I referred to and stuff like that I've spoken to him about, and what what they perceive, right?
Right.
So a lot of people are scared of failure. So this is something.
Yep.
Failure, and first of all, what other people think of you is none of your fucking business.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually come to terms with that, your life is significantly better.
Yeah.
If you, as an individual, you work for yourself, you better yourself, you are your own person, you're an amazing person, and hold true to yourself. You should be proud of yourself no matter what you do, but try to do the right things. That's how I see it. Right. So if you have a look at some of the most successful and most interesting people on earth, whether it's a movie star, whether it's someone like Elon Musk, look where it is now. His journey wasn't peaches and cream at all.
No.
An extremely hard, extremely inspiring journey.
And the
And
dude's 100% on the spectrum of some sort, you know, like he's dealt with challenges his whole life, man, but he's a billionaire.
Exactly. And not just that, like if you look at how he's approached things, people can be controversial what they hear in media. I'm actually not interested in, couldn't care less.
Right.
Everyone's got an opinion, you're entitled to it.
Right.
Would like to, right? Hurrah to everyone. However, I see the positives in things because with that type of wealth and with those levels comes extremely heavy responsibility.
Yeah.
When I mean extremely heavy, things I can't even fathom, I can't even imagine.
Right.
Right. So I respect this. And I love the fact that there's always going to be someone out there smarter than me. There's always going to be somebody out there wiser, smarter, more intelligent, better looking, better this, better that. Everything, in every single sense of my existence, there's going to be somebody out there that has one or two or three qualities that I don't have. However, they might also have a quality that they don't have a quality that I might have.
Right.
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 So anyway, going back to the failure part, don't be scared to fail.
Right.
You might fail 10 times. You might fail 50 times, 100 times. The most important thing is to take the best of those failures.
Yep.
Right. Take what worked, what aspects worked. Dismiss and get rid of the things that didn't work. Don't repeat the same mistakes again.
Right.
That's how I see it.
Right.
We opened up a restaurant here locally in COVID. Right. Maybe I love food, by the way. I'm a foodie. I love food, love all cuisine.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Obsessed with it, like enjoy it. Cooking relaxes me. Full random fact, but
Love
I
to
enjoy
cook.
it. Yeah. And anyway, I'm like, you know what? I've got a colleague of mine, amazing guy. He's a chef. We were going to go do a side business as well. Obviously, I love doing different things within means. And we're like, you know, we're going to open up a restaurant. So we opened up a restaurant. We were extremely successful within the first 3 months. Did awesome. Everything was awesome. COVID hit. What do you know? Guess what happens? Right? However, this time I was ready for it. This time I was like, yep, I've learned heaps. The amount you learn in hospitality alone.
Oh my gosh.
Say this. Like
Game
I run a
changer.
construction company. I build homes, right? So there's a whole progress of building a home. Hospitality and just running a restaurant, it is insane, man.
Yes, it is.
Actually,
Yeah.
you know,
I worked in hospitality for a long hot minute, and it's
yeah.
I always said this. I was like, all youth of the world needs to work at a restaurant to understand how to deal with people.
Yeah. And not just with people, like the amount of moving components and preparation that happens from marketing to ingredients to stock levels to this to that, cleansing, everything under the sun, so many moving parts, right? And it's extremely exciting, extremely cool, everything like that. But in the end, I'm just like, you know what? I really just like my food. And, you know, I'll just enjoy that.
It's chaos. Anyway, it's chaos, man. I would never. There's a reason why out of all startups, restaurants are the ones that are least invested in because it's fucking hard, man. It's hard.
It is. Yeah, definitely. And because I'm a guy, I'm very, very hands-on with everything. Like I'll say no to anything. Like even with Web3, when we start talking about it, like I try to get involved as much as I can. Obviously not overstepping, and I'm not going to overstep anyone's profession. There's professional, and then, you know, I do what I do, but certain areas I don't know everything, and I don't want to know everything, but I want to understand it. I want to understand the fundamentals behind it, you know? But anyway, when I'm going with the restaurant, I enjoyed it. We saw it, and I made a decision. We're like, you know what? This isn't working for us. We're going to shut shop. We shut shop. We broke even at the time. We made some money, broke even, and it was an experience. And now, this is what I'm trying to say. People can look at that, and it's a failure. It's hard. It's scary. Like, I don't know. It's hard for people to do, but I've learned to just, this part of my life is now finished. This is what I got out of it. These are the parts that I enjoyed. These were the hard parts. Don't repeat them again, and apply them to your next business. People forget, whether you're in tech, whether in construction, whether in hospitality, fashion, whether in medicine, business and the fundamentals of running a business and
Right.
managing people are the same.
Yeah.
They might vary in specific areas, right, due to the demographic and due to the nature of your business. However, functionality, operations, how you structure things, it's the same.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's one of the big learnings I've had is just the, yeah, you know, the operations, intentionality, planning, research, all of those things that you think, you know, especially in the media kind of creative world, you have this, I think, thought for a lot of the times that like, oh, this person just made a piece of content and got lucky. But time and time again, you see the top people in the space. They are insanely intentional about what they do. They do it week in and week out. They have a very defined process of how to ideate, insane amount of research that goes into that 10-minute piece of content that they're making, and then days to make 10-minute videos, right? And then they rinse and repeat and do that. And there's a very defined process, whereas everyone's like, oh, someone just picked up their phone, made a YouTube video, got lucky, and it went viral. And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
I agree. Have you watched the new Pepsi documentary?
No, I've heard it's amazing, but I want to watch it.
This is what you just reminded me of. Because the guys, it is mind blowing. Honestly, watch it. It's so fascinating in so many different ways.
Right.
And actually speak about the representatives of Pepsi actually speak about just how much effort they put into this 1 or 2 minute video of a Pepsi commercial. It's insanity, and that also it's content. That's literally what it is. It's a different type of content that's output and advertising and so forth. But
Right.
I can totally resonate with what you said, 100%. And you know what? Even if some people do get lucky, what would you rather do? Sit there and be a 1 in a billion, or work towards it and be a 1 in 1 that you actually achieve that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but I managed production for a multi-billion-dollar brand, a car insurance company here in the States, and you know, to make a high-end 30-second commercial, we were spending anywhere between $300,000 and $500,000, and there was about 80 people on set, right? Like it's a small village that makes, and by the way, this was a 30-second TV commercial. So the fact that you think you can sit at yourself with your cell phone at home and just be this multi-million-dollar production company, you got a lot more coming to you.
100%.
Not saying it
totally.
can't be done. It has been done, but there's just, and again, these are the life, and you probably learned that from the restaurant, right? Like you realized how much, one of the things I learned is like how critical inventory is, and to be regimented about that, because if you're not regimented about inventory, it totally fucks your bottom line, and there's food waste and spoil and all of these things that you wouldn't have thinking about. And that all just still boils back down to that planning, strategy, research part. It's so critical in anything that you do.
In saying that, hospitality and why it's so vital, what you just said, planning and strategizing. If you don't order, this is just really simple stuff. If you don't order ingredients by Monday or Tuesday, your busiest Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Guess what?
Yeah.
Everything's going to, it's that simple.
You're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the following week, you're going to struggle again and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
change.
Yeah. So where we got off track again. It's just such a great conversation.
I tend to get a bit too over passionate and just start shooting off in different directions.
No, I love it. No, this is great. This is what we wanted to happen. So I said, anything you want to touch on between mentorship, your professional career, until we got into Web3, and you shared about failure. You said there was two things. You went down the failure rabbit hole. Was there a second thing that you wanted to share, or did we kind of cover it all with that conversation?
We covered most of it. The main thing that I want to highlight, reach out to people. If somebody is fascinating, if somebody intrigues you, you've got the right tools in order to reach out to them.
Yep.
You've got social media, right?
Yep.
Obviously, got to be a bit more clever. Like a lot of the Instagram accounts aren't even managed by the people behind them, as you know this. If you think, you're famous, the movie star, or you're famous, I don't know, athlete that you're inspired about is behind their social media accounts, 9 out of 10 times they got teams actually managing all of that.
Yeah.
And like, let's be realistic, Twitter is a very good place to start. Even currently, it's really good in order to get in touch with the right corporations, the right people behind these corporations.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely platform. I'm a big advocate of it. I wasn't about 4 years ago. If you told me what Twitter was, I would have told you, man, I don't know why the hell anyone would waste time
Right.
on just something. It didn't make sense to me. Now I literally purely only use Twitter, right? It's very interesting. You see what people actually, you can actually see what the person's about a little bit, right? With some of the content that he or she posts. Anyway, reach out to people, tell them, why they inspire you. Ask them the questions. They might give you the time of time of day. They might not. The worst thing you're going to get is a no. Try to find someone else,
Right.
because you never know. You'll never know unless you reach out, ever.
100%. I love that message, and it should be heard way more than, because like you said earlier before when we were talking about this stuff, I don't know why it's almost like I just think about like when you're when you're a kid in high school and you're talking about trying to ask the girl that you like to prom or the dance or whatever, and it's such this massive thing in your mind, but ultimately the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no.
Yep.
That's it. That's literally it. And if you can get over that thought,
Literally,
yeah, literally no, that's all that can happen. So if you can overcome that fear, then you're money in the bank. And that's where our kind of show really started branching out. Was just I was far beyond the point of being scared about no's, but I think your extra context is very impactful, that people need to realize is there's so many people, especially in this space as well, that say, hey, I want you to do something for me. And don't even preface the conversation with, hey, I reached out to you because I'm doing X and I think you would be a good fit, or you said X and I think you're an interesting person and I'd love to learn from you, right? There's just there's the all of the famous sales books and tactics and stuff say is like you need to be starting the conversation with what you can do for them opposed to what you need to get from them. It really changes that conversation.
definitely. The way you position yourself and the way you approach things, definitely a game changer.
Right. And if you do it shitty, they will say no. But if you get better at it, you'll get more yeses eventually. And that's all part of a learning process as well, right?
Exactly. And question why they said no.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at there's an art to messaging people on Twitter, which is like, don't go too long, don't go too short, and talk about why you're doing this and give more explanation. Not that I can't tell you, and I don't know if we get it more because we're on kind of like the creator side. So we constantly get DMs about like people wanting to work with us. But literally the first DM is yo. Nothing.
Wow.
It's just a yo.
We
I'm like, what do you expect is going to be a product of you yoing me on Twitter? What do you want me to do with that? Because I'm not doing anything with it.
I come with an experience as well. Like, we got a lot of people approaching us and wanting to be a part of the team and etc. But the first thing I ask them, hey, that's amazing, thanks for reaching out. What do you know about Fusion? And it's just crickets. And I'm like, why do you even bother? Like, I don't understand. So I think it's just like, I don't know whether it's like a little bit of a trend or just hunting because of the whole Web3 space or
Right.
what it is, but it does happen often. I do think people in the space are getting a lot smarter. This year especially, they've come a long way, and they're getting a lot more creative and a lot more punctual and a lot more open with the message they want to deliver as well. But obviously there's going to be odd cases here and there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's another thing, the amount of people that reach out to us, then I reach out to them, and then I never hear from them again. It's like, well, what did you even waste your time for in the first place? It's mind blowing. All right, well, let's
Yeah.
go. Let's go to Web3, man. Tell me
Oh,
how you found Web3.
yeah.
Take us through that
So,
journey, and then starting Fusion, and we'll get into that.
so I found Web3 in 2016 with like a whole bunch of other people, right? But it was through the crypto part of Web3. So I fell hot and heavy into that rabbit hole, which was never ending. I
Yeah.
got obsessed with it quickly. I was definitely drawn towards the technology, 110%. I
Mm-hmm.
found it fascinating what you can do with it, especially with um, the whole banking systems and whichever way you want to
Yeah.
talk about it, positives and negatives with everything, including Web 2, Web 3, and including banking, the traditional financial system, and currently where we're going. So like I said, positives, negatives with both sides. We're going to have to find some common medium
Right.
or some common way. So anyway, jumped into it. I started trading like everyone else did, right? Investing into things that I didn't understand at the time. I thought I understood.
Mm-hmm.
An expert really quickly, as most people do. However, as quick as I made money, I got like absolutely wrecked,
Yeah.
real quick and real steep.
Yeah.
After that happened, I took it personal. I was like, nah, this is not happening to me. All right. It's already late, but what can I do to actually improve this? So
Right.
I started educating myself. So I actually became a part of 4 different academies around the world, 2 in the States and 2 locally. There were trading academies that teach you everything about trading, the financial economic system, how to manage it, what to look out for, macro trading, risk management, if the list goes on. I can speak about this for days because it has been a significant amount of time that I've been involved in it.
Right.
Once I started going down that path, I started sharing that knowledge with as many people that were interested in hearing it.
Yep.
One thing that I will highlight now, one thing that I'm a strong believer in, a lot of people in high positions, whether it's down the bottom or extremely high, are very knowledgeable, but they don't like sharing their knowledge.
Yes.
Personally, I think that's a massive flaw. Yes, protect your IP. However, like share your experience with people. What's the point of knowing something if you can't share and leave something behind that you can better somebody else's life?
Right.
In the end, they don't realize that just because you shared your knowledge with them, that these people, not all of them going to apply it. You know what I mean? It's not like even if you give somebody a blueprint, doesn't mean that they're going to build this particular product or they know how to do it. So it's a very fine line between the two. I'm a big advocate of sharing what I know,
Mm-hmm.
sharing my faults, sharing my wins as well. What you make of it, it's your journey, man. There's over 8 billion of us, right? What do I care what you do with it? If you get a positive out of it, I'm one proud person that, I've been able to bring some benefit to your life in some way.
Yep.
Um,
Totally agree. And to your point, that's what I say to, a lot of people that are like, why would you share? And I was like, everything that we just talked about, not guess what? 99.9% of people are going to do absolutely nothing. So you're better
yeah.
off sharing and helping.
Exactly. Couldn't agree with you more. So that journey led me on many other journeys. Like it started off in Web 3 that way, but then I started going back to Web 2
Right.
and finding laws of hold on a second, like we're here, this, the Web 3 aspect of things, right? And the future and talking about the future and how we're getting there. And we're making this movement towards the future, but why are we doing it? Where are all the faults in Web 2? So I did a deep dive, I reverse engineered everything,
Right.
and really got to understand the fundamentals of where things have gone wrong, why they've gone wrong, and why these solutions are a good fit for the future. It's one thing to say, yes, this particular technology is going to revolutionize everything, but hold on a second. Is it sustainable? Is it applicable? Is it actually worth engineering for the next 5 years? Is it going to be applicable in the next 5 years? how is it going to impact the greater good, and just deep diving into a hell of a lot of things, right? But then I started uncovering horror stories, and I'm like, holy shit, there is so much wrong with the world, and it's all swept under the rug, like
Right.
literally, and people just keep going. One thing is, printing money and doing all sorts of weird and wonderful things. You can look at it whichever way you want.
Multiple
There's
banking crises that are just billions of dollars wasted and thrown into flames. Are you talking about that type of stuff?
everything and everything above and much more. 2008 in particular,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Housing crisis and everything. Currently, like I'll touch base on this. The best system in the world currently, the most effective system in the world, not the best for us, but the money making system. There's no better system than house loans. Think about it.
Right.
All right, banks control it all to a very high extent. You work, I don't know, 3 to 4 years, you save 20%, right? 20% might be equivalent to, I don't know, 100,000, 200,000, depending on what you're buying, right, and the value of the property. You're giving this to the bank. This money is no longer yours. You know how they say, not your wallet, not your crypto?
Right.
Not in your hand, it's not your money, man.
Right.
It's that. Because tomorrow, your account can disappear.
Yep.
Literally,
Yep.
right? Goes into thin air. It becomes magic internet money, pretty much.
Right.
So in that sense, then you're stuck in a loan that it's over a span of 25 to 35 years. That's the majority of your life.
Yeah.
Right? Rates go up, down, repayments. Anyway, I can really do a deep dive into this, but it's completely controlled in the end. If you're not quick enough, if you're not smart enough to compound, you get left behind and you end up losing. And that's literally the whole system and what it's based on, how you move forward and how it affects all the rest of the economy. And it's a domino effect with everything.
Right. Absolutely.
Anyway, cool. So going back to that, got into the NFT space just shy of 2 years now. Found out through a friend of mine through the Crypto Academy. His name's Matty. He got me in, and I started applying a lot of my trading skills directly that I learned from the crypto game into the NFT space, the non-fungible token space.
Mm-hmm.
I was extremely successful. Reason why, I had really, really clean entries, really clean exit strategies.
Right.
You had to read specific things. A lot of people they weren't very intelligent on the way they masked the metadata as well and what they were doing. So there was gaps in the system. And anybody with common knowledge, when I mean common knowledge, it's actual common knowledge, was able to see it. If you were quick enough, you can actually make some money.
Right. Can you really concisely talk about, for somebody, and I think this is a good clip of just information, is someone new to NFTs, what does a clear entry and exit strategy mean to you when you're talking about buying in NFTs?
I'm going to give you a clear example.
Love it.
I'm going to paint a picture of a win. There was, if I mention this in front of my co-founder, he'll probably tackle me to the floor because he absolutely hated this particular project. I won't name them,
Okay.
right? And not you guessing either. But it was one of the first 3D projects that was in the market. Okay. I ended up getting in at 0.24 ETH, something along those lines. And I ended up sniping it pre-reveal. And I ended up getting a legendary, as people say, a 1 of 1. Okay.
Right.
People were telling me to sell a 3 ETH. People were telling me to sell a 4 ETH, that I was crazy. People were telling me to sell a 7 ETH. People were telling me to sell a 15 ETH. Okay. ETH at the time was at its all-time high.
Right.
Top. When I top, absolute top.
Yeah.
However, I saw on the marketplace, on OpenSea, was watching the bids, and I opened up on a couple of my screens all the different legendaries that were up, 1 of 1s, who was bidding against who, what the prices were. There was 4 people going up against each other. So one was trying to outdo the other, right? Mine was one of the ones that was not listed. So it wasn't listed, but I was getting bids on it. The other guys had theirs listed and at extreme obscene prices. So I saw an opportunity. Okay, I come from a construction background. I sold, houses to people. It's all emotional. It's all face to face. I can sell you anything. So I'm like, okay, let's use this to my advantage. So I'm gonna start playing around with what I'm gonna put my particular NFT up for. So I put it up, there was a bid, I'd take it off the market. Put it up, there was a bid, take it off the market. They started getting frustrated because I was kept on rejecting the bids, right? Because it was up to. However, it started getting really hot because they started getting faster and faster trying to outdo each other. I listed it for a specific price, which was 20, I think 20 or 25 ETH. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was equivalent to $180,000 AUD at the time. So 160,000 US dollars.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
It's a shit ton of money. It's life-changing money, right? So I put it up, and what do you know? I was literally in my shower, mind you, butt naked in the shower, saw my phone go off. I'm like, no way. And I went and I saw it, and it cleared, and I ended up making it and making that sell. So where I'm going back on, I got so much abuse for selling it through the Discord. They were going, you're crazy, you should have waited to 100 ETH, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, are these people insane? Are you out of your minds?
Right.
Like, I didn't understand it, because I just know I went from 0.24 ETH to 20 or 25, whatever the case was, right? I think it was 25. Like, I went from that. Do you know how many X's that is? I go, guys, do you not realize the guy that bought it off me just paid 100, right? And 50 or 60, whatever, K USD for this NFT, for him to even double that. Like, the chances are almost slim to none. And on top of that, his risk exposure is massive.
Oh my
150,
God.
and
Insane.
that's how I viewed it. And then I'm like, hold on, there's massive problems here in this space. This is why people are going to get ripped, and that's when all the shit started coming.
Right.
So,
and how much is that? How much is that floor price looking right now?
oh my friend, you do not want to know.
It's zero.
It's pretty much zero.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yep. Been there. By the way, I tell this story multiple times as well. I kind of really got my start in this space. I think I told you, as an original Hate Beast mod, and I was a mod, and I got 3 free hapes for being a mod, and I sold those bitches at 9 ETH, and I told everyone about it. And being a mod, I had the extra scrutiny. I'm like, fuck you guys. I just sold a digital ape for $20,000 and I got 3 of them. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. You guys are idiots telling me. And sure enough, guess what happened? All hell broke loose because they didn't show a Supreme sponsorship 2 weeks after they minted. And guess what? That's not how fucking regular life works either, people. You don't just build a random 3D NFT project and expect Supreme, one of the biggest brands in the world, to just link up with your NFT project and start co-creating branding material together. It's like, God, man, it's just such a bizarre space. It's insane to me.
And it was like the Wild West, like we referred to it. It was not refined in many different ways. It was the bull market. Anything that went up got sold.
Right.
It's a matter of, hey, how clever are you in order to secure your whitelist, and how quickly and how many can you mint?
Yeah.
It was literally like gambling, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
It was
really, it was gambling to a whole different level. But the thing that pissed me off about it is that I really believe in the technology from day one. Like, I legitimately saw the value in the technology. However, that's when my frustration with Discord started as well. I'm really familiar with Discord. I know the mistakes. We've made some mistakes ourselves in our Discord with security and stuff like that, minor stuff. And we learned from it, right? At a very young feet. But what it comes down to is that we actually saw, and when I mean we, myself and a couple of the co-founders that are now a part of the Fusion family, people exploiting people. Like, black and white, and the everyday person just not knowing it, right? And that really bothered me because I'm like, dude, like my little brother, who was 17 at the time, he's 18 now. You know, he just put like 6 grand into NFTs. That's all his savings. That's all his savings. Like, and his friends put money, and they all lost it. And these are kids. These are bright kids. The future is with the kids,
Right.
and that's what people don't understand. They're like, yeah, but there's all these little snotty 16-year-olds in the Web3 space. I'm like, hold on a second, man. You do understand you do have to understand that if you understand where the mindset of a young generation is, you're going to understand where the future is going, right?
Right.
And like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. Well, it's really common sense.
Right.
Like, you know, the kids might not know everything, but this is why you're there for. And the other beautiful thing is, wouldn't you want to know how young generations perceive what we've created? You know, as adults and as mentors and as leaders and, you know, people that guide, like, don't you want to know that?
Right.
And it reflected back to the same problem where that teacher goes to me, I'm not going to amount to nothing. It reflected back to that day.
Mm-hmm.
I was that kid one day. I wanted everything. But I was still a kid.
Right.
People forget where they stem from and how they grew up, you know, and that's because I guess it's just the process. You know, you got more responsibilities, more problems, and you know, it's a natural progression. But having that open mind and like having that inner child, like I never wanted to lose my inner child.
Right.
Like I love that fun part.
Yeah.
My grandmother used to always say, literally, sorry to weir up, but she always used to say, I'll never forget it, you always want to grow up so fast. You want to grow up so fast, you're going to remember these are the most beautiful years of your life. You're going to wish you want to go back to high school.
Right.
And I just wait to finish high school. I'm like, I bloody hate being in high school. I got to go learn about this, learn about that. And now I reflect back on it, I'm like, she was 100% right.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, all elderly people tell you to be as kid for as long as you can possibly be, because it is a magical time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but anyway, moving.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let's move forward.
Yeah. So fast forwarding, we identified some serious problems in the space, and we saw that there was massive room for innovation. And at the time, I had an idea of something that I wanted to bring to light, but I wanted to bring it to light a different way. So I founded FusionXYZ, brought on some of the most amazing human beings that are my family now. And one of them I've known for 15 odd years, who's my co-founder, George, and 2 other co-founders, Said and Mo. They're from Egypt. 2 amazing developers. One comes from front end, the other one comes from UX and UI. Extremely experienced, young, full of life. I couldn't have done it without them, as an example. And together, we created this amazing, not just brand, but amazing sense of belonging and amazing, how can I tell you, amazing vision that we brought to life. Right. And it just snowballed from an idea to something extremely concrete and to something that we just blew up in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Yes. The starting point, essentially.
Take us through the evolution of the idea. I'm interested in those early days, like the evolution of what was the idea? What did you learn along the way to the point where you're like, okay, we're ready to blow this bitch out of the water? That little early stage, I'm interested in that.
Yeah. So one thing that we saw was that everybody was essentially posting roadmaps, which a roadmap is literally a piece of paper digitally that you just put where you want to be. It's at the time, now that I think about it, it's almost insanity, right? It's just pure marketing. That's what it was. So what people fell for was extremely good marketers, right? Fair enough if it was a tangible company with, you know, docs, individuals behind it, they have a clear, you know, reputable background, and they've been involved in specific sectors, they've got experience, they've got money backing them, they've done a raise, and so forth and so forth. Those are those unique little unicorn cases, right? With us, we saw that, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do it properly. Let's actually build products first. Let's actually build something tangible that we can deliver and get people to feel it, touch it, and be involved in it, that they can get value out of something. And then that into something, furthermore like an NFT and so forth. So that's the
Right.
mindset that we're in. So we went out and we started building an ecosystem that comprised of a couple of different things at the time. One was essentially a trading and educational platform. So similar to an analytical platform to an extent, but we wanted to build our own indexer, right? So the indexer that actually powers everything. Uh, Most recently, OpenSea ended up buying the Gem indexer as an example, give or take from my understanding. That's
Right.
anyway. So it started off like that, and then it just snowballed into many different ideas. We started looking into how we can actually better the space, how we can bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3, what's important, and all of these floating components that we had in our minds, but we couldn't tie it together. So for about 2 months or 3 months, we started tying and connecting all the dots. We started clearing them up, having a clear, precise direction where we want to take the company, what we want to achieve. If we build something, is it going to be scalable? If we build something, is there a use case for it in the next 10 to 15 years, not 1 to 3, which is extremely important. And if we build it now, is the need for it going to be in that same time frame?
Right.
How are we going to build it? How long is it going to take us? What the marketing strategy behind it is going to be? What the development costs are going to be? What the issues that we can run into? How we're going to mitigate them? We need to set up an enterprise and a company. So we started off with that. We started getting all our legalities in place. We started aligning and having a clear understanding of where we all stand in the company, right? And it started progressing. As you saw now, started bringing it all in. Everything was more concentrated, everything was more structured, and everybody understood which direction we wanted to take it into.
Right.
Once we figured out what we wanted to be, we wanted to be recognized as a premium brand for a premium ecosystem for premium brands. So we went out and we started building a roadmap on how to actually achieve
A
this.
real roadmap, by the way.
Yeah. On how we're trying to achieve this. And we bootstrapped the whole business originally. All right. So we bootstrapped the business, we're using our own funds. And that's essentially how the business got to where it was supposed to get to. I'm not gonna get into shilling it and all that, whatever. You can figure it out yourself and you can ask the right questions.
I'll ask a couple questions, so don't worry about that part. I'm interested in this journey, though. This is great.
Yeah, I'm being very broad and very agnostic towards the whole thing. But long story short, we ended up being in an opportunity which we were able to raise funds as well. So we did a pre-seed round and we ended up raising 7 figures. The investors that invested in us invested not just in the company and the product, they invest in people. That's what a lot of people don't understand.
All it is, man.
So they have to, or everything has to align. The due diligence has to be aligned. They look into your backgrounds, your capability, your relationships, and everything in between. And then obviously they look into the product. They look into what you're trying to achieve. Is there a marketplace for it? A million other things. I've written a couple of articles on this as well, and how to raise and how to go about capital raising and everything like this. So we were fortunate enough, and we ended up securing it. It was an extremely stressful process. We had internal bickering. We butted heads.
Yeah.
We didn't understand everything. We never pretend to understand everything. We're always ever learning. Whether I'm 35 years old now, or whether I'm 55, I'm always going to learn.
Yep.
I'm never going to know it all, and I find that to be an amazing, beautiful part of life. Right.
Right.
If my language, the dumbest person in the room, I'm a very fortunate guy that I'm in that room. That's how I see it.
100%.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
Anyway, after that point, we went hot and heavy, and we really started working on our branding and getting the branding to where it is, the UX and UI. Our developers just, I refer to them as geniuses in their own way. As an example, Say is able to literally, I'm very good at creating and very, very good at building and processes and hell of a lot of different things. However, my imagination is something that's extremely hard to sometimes bring to life, right? Because
Right.
I'm very specific. This comes from almost my childhood, reflecting back.
Right.
This guy is able to literally take something out of my head and bring it to life, man.
Yeah.
And that's how fortunate enough we were to stumble across each other. Then, I had another, which we still do, obviously, Mo. Mo is somebody that's so experienced, is so understanding, and he understands the complexities of how to reel in, like, when you look at stars as an example,
Yeah.
and understand what type of systems are out there and the Orion and blah blah blah. He's literally able to get all that information and just zone it in and present it to you in a way that you understand every single thing.
Right.
Right. These are just little things. There's a lot more to each person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have George, who is a childhood friend of mine. I've known George for the past better 15 years of my life.
Nice.
We used to go out together, used to do, travel, and used to do a lot of wonderful things. He's extremely knowledgeable, extremely well calculated, strategic, absolute fucking monster of a person, honestly, that I can say that I've learned so much from, and we balance each other out. He's big guy as well. He's trained all his life, and we have our little moments and stuff, but
Yeah.
in the we understand each other. So even though sometimes it's not peaches and cream with any company. You all have different opinions. We all talk about them. You might butt heads, but in the end, it's how do you finalize those situations? Like, how do you come to a common conclusion between one another?
Right.
Right? No matter how heated it gets, you pause. We try to understand each other. Prime example, if George or I don't understand each other in one way or another, right? I would literally ask him, explain it to me in 5 different ways
Yeah.
until I get it, and vice versa. Because if he's really trying to get this point across, there must be a reason that he's trying to do it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
bring that really open-minded approach.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's the founding team and people that I wouldn't be here without, and
Yeah.
people that really I get up every morning thinking like I'm glad to have stumbled across them, and extremely fortunate to have each other. It's something that's extremely valuable in any company, and most importantly, it's something that is almost non-existent.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
That
go ahead. Go ahead. What are we gonna finish?
no, I was just gonna say, saying that, like, even through the bull run, you've got like, individuals, groups, whatever, that have raised $20-30 million, and to this day, unfortunately, they haven't done anything with the monies because there's a lot of challenges. Like, first you should plan and then get the money. That's how we see it. It's easy once you have the money. What are you going to do with it, right? Where are you going to start? Where are you going to get your team from?
Right.
Well, then there's bonds that have to happen. Like, there's so many different factors for all of this to come together that it's people don't really see past that point.
Yep. They just see the money, and that's why we've never created an NFT as well. As I was like, I don't want that responsibility. I don't know what I would do in an NFT. We're trying to be creators and build a brand. When it comes to videos and communications, that's what we're going to concentrate on. Everyone has told us over this whole time, like, year and a half, almost 2 years later, why haven't you made an NFT? And it's because that's not what we're trying to do. And we're not going to be one of those guys that raise money and do nothing with it. It's crazy. It's crazy what has happened in this space over the last year and a half to 2 years. A couple questions, and I do want to get to like a succinct kind of pitch of what FusionXYZ is, and then we go in the future. But you just shared like a really cool story. And so the one thing I wanted to ask about that, and also timing, we're a little over 2 hours, believe it or not.
Wow.
Just want to make...
When you first told me that we're going to speak for 2 hours, I was like, there's no chance that we're going
to... I just want to make sure you don't have a hard stop, because I could say we can probably shut it down the next 15 to 20 minutes if that sounds good for you.
Yeah, cool. Whatever.
Okay, cool. So, everyone's reaction is always 2 hours, you're out of your mind. And then I get the same reaction that you just gave me. So That story I would love to hear, and this is a chance to teach, like you said you like to do. Maybe some positive learning lessons and some hard learning lessons from that time to where you're raising capital. I think that would be interesting for people to hear and would make for some pretty solid content.
Yeah, yeah. Some positive learning lessons from that is, well, there's many different lessons, but essentially, the best way I can put it to this way, I'm going to reflect to one quick story. So the way I got taught how to swim, I got thrown off a boat, right, with the cold bucket by the kids. It's
Mm-hmm.
literally the old school European way. Don't ask me how. So what I'm saying is, when you get thrown in the deep end, right? So we got thrown in the deep end. Like I said, we had to scramble quickly. I've raised money before, but in different sectors, in different environments. This was completely different. Have to tick off a completely different amount of boxes. Wasn't experienced in it. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I was. And either was George and the rest of the team. However, we had each other to fall back on, and we were all learning together. Yes, like I said, we were butting heads back and forth because it's stressful. You're talking about significant figures. You're talking about the future of what we're building. You're talking about a company. There's people that depend on us, right? And it's not just myself and the other three co-founders. There's a whole community that depends on us,
Right.
and we take this stuff really serious, right? It's not just, single-ended, so to speak. So when we were doing the deep dive, we started coming across specific cases, case studies, looking at the importance of things and really trying to understand what's important and the process, and really trying to understand how to articulate specific things, right, to specific VCs. The hardest part is, how do you explain Web3 to somebody that has no idea about it, right? And that's
Right.
not your mom, your dad's, my brother, my grandmother, or my friend. These are serious people that have
Right.
raised billions, not millions, billions of dollars for people around the world. So instead of going over the top technical, you got to learn how to dumb it down, and you got to sit in a room and understand that you're just sitting in front of another human being, right?
Ooh, I
Another
like that.
you and me, it's them and us and them, whatever you want to call it. So obviously, presentation is one thing. Preparation is key to everything. If you are not prepared, you will fail. There's no ifs, there's no buts. If you think somebody's going to invest in you just because they like you, I can almost guarantee you that it's like playing the lotto. You will fail.
Right.
You need to know how to present yourself. You need to know what to present. You need to do your research into who you're sitting in front of. Who have they invested in the past? How much? For how long? For what reason? How deep were they involved with them? Right? What was the circumstances behind? And yada yada yada.
Yep.
So there's a whole spectrum of things. And at the start, you think a little bit different, all right? So you think about, it's not just presenting any old tech project or presenting a product. It's a whole ecosystem, how you're going to obtain critical mass, how you're going to monetize, through what avenue, what have you built, protection around your IP, where are you registered, how is your company structure set up.
Yep.
The list goes on, like on and on. Anyway, the benefits of this, we were really pushed into deep in the deep end to become organized overnight,
Right.
and we did a good job. I'm really proud of the guys and myself with them. We did an extremely good job, and it was the learning curve, and we started becoming a lot more organized and a lot more direct to the point. So we're extremely efficient, right?
Right.
So we're an efficient, effective team, and I refer to the guys as that always. It's a little bit robotic, but we really are, and
Yeah.
that's something that I'm proud of when it comes to these guys. The things that I hated about it, or
Yeah, just
you
like
know,
tough learning lessons or things you might have done differently. Anything there.
how to control their stress and how it impacts the team, and how it impacts
Mm,
my, um, health is the number one killer of people, man. Like, sorry, the stress is the number one killer of people. Like
Yep.
in general, people don't realize that. I wish I could have managed my stress. Even to this day, I try to manage my stress levels. It's not all peaches and cream. It's extremely stressful doing 16-hour days.
Yep.
I do have a life, and people expect the world of you. And even though, hey, man, I'm doing 16-hour days, like, you know, like you said, people always want to see the money at the end of the rainbow, you know? So it's managing and having that balance. I can't switch off. That's my issue. I can almost never switch off. I'm always on the go.
Right.
Like my escape is, you know, gym and training and boxing, and now I'm learning how to run. When I mean run, I know how to run, but like, do you know how to run?
Right.
You know,
Right. There's an art to learning how to run. I don't ever want
yeah,
to learn that art.
not dying in the ass after a couple of 100 meters and
Right.
stuff like that.
Right.
Okay? So like basic stuff, and yeah, so that was the number one factor. However, in saying that, we were extremely resilient, and just keep going with the punches. Like we just keep adapting.
Right.
Like, do we need to? Yeah, we're gonna do it. What else do we need to do? Yeah, we'll do that as well. If it's too hard, well, it's not too hard. It's just gonna take us X amount of time. Let's do it.
Right.
And you know, and we complement each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think an awesome insight with the stress and managing that.
Yeah.
What have you found to work other than eating healthy and working out, or is that just it for you?
Oh, oh man, you know what? I like talking. I like talking to like-minded people like yourself. I like sharing things.
Yeah.
I like talking about real topics that matter. You know, sitting at a dinner table or whatever the environment is, and talking about things that are fascinating and things that I could, part of me, find like beauty in some way or form. You know,
Right.
so just staying away from toxic people. I've changed my life dramatically in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, even though you can be a founder, you can be an owner of a business, in the end, I've got a life, guys. I've got friends.
Yeah.
I've got, you know, I've got a little puppy at home.
Right. Right.
You know, I eat, I do everything you guys do.
Right.
I've got bills to pay.
Right.
I've got my ambitions, and I'm human. Yeah, that's it. And in saying that, I'm really trying to concentrate on who I surround myself with and who I dedicate my time to.
Yeah.
Time is the ultimate resource, and time is the ultimate factor to everything.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious of it, and I'm glad you brought it up at the start of the conversation today. And the more I think about it, the more I value my own time. I put myself first. Before, I always used to put myself second.
Mm-hmm.
All that selfish, not selfish. Think of it what you want. I've done it for the best part of my 30 years, putting everyone else first.
Right.
So it's a little time to give back to myself. And if I'm concentrating on myself and bringing you the best part of me, guess what? You're going to benefit too, because you're getting the best of me. You know.
It took me 38 years to realize that, man. But I totally feel you, and it means the world to me that you're spending this time with us, because I know how valuable it is. So thank you so much, man.
Pleasure.
Dude, beautiful insight, beautiful story there on both the positives and the negatives. Let's do this. Let's go.
Cool.
You're in the startup boiler, right? You're going up to the elevator. You're about to give your pitch, but someone hops on you early and they're like, listen, man, Damjan, I need the fucking 2-minute elevator pitch of FusionXYZ before you actually give us the 10-page deck pitch. What is that?
Yeah.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, cool. So Fusion's a premium ecosystem designed to enable premium brands to get in, whether they're Web2 based or Web3 based, right? We've created a product called Shuttlebay, which is a SaaS product, which centralizes all brand communication onto one platform. It works in 4 different ways. It curates your community, it grows your community, it rewards your community, and you also retain your community through our platform through various different ways. One of them is interacting with essentially output such as content of a brand right? And this, once you interact with the content, you actually get rewarded social points. These social points accumulate over time, which you can exchange for rewards over our marketplace, which we're currently building out. That's essentially Shuttlebird. That's essentially Fusion. We're concentrating on educating and enabling any single person around the world to be able to stay in tune with their favorite brands in the click of one button.
Love it, man. That was a great, concise elevator pitch. I think that's perfect, and that's what I know. Now, going a little bit deeper dive, I know we got the XYZ part on the monitor. Want to take us through any, because you have a myriad of products here, Shuttlebait being one of them. Do you want to touch on that? And then the follow-up question will be, what does the next 6 to 12 months look like? So touch base on any other product other than Shuttlebait, in which you just said, in a little deeper manner if you want, and then we'll move to the future.
Yeah, cool. So Shuttlebait ties into all of it. So that's why we started off with Shuttlebait.
Okay.
I might just add that. We're fortunate enough, we've got over 35,000 active users on our platform currently. We've also delivered over 1.3 million Twitter contributions for our platform, which is, as you know, extremely great.
Right.
We're on board a lot more communities in the next 3 to 6 weeks. We're going to hit probably 100,000 plus users, and it's a very controlled process. However, that actually ties into the rest of our ecosystem. We're also building out a product called Portal Gun, which is 100% on-chain, cross-chain, social and financial platform. So I won't go too much deeper into that.
Okay.
Then we've got another 2 products. One I won't mention because it's extremely far away, but the other one is the product that I spoke about at the start that we started with, which is that it's called Hidden Gem Finance. It's built off our own indexer, and it's an analytical and educational platform, which is completely free, which we're going to enable anybody to pretty much go on there and learn how to trade and get insight through analytical insight for free, and they don't have to pay a subscription or any form of payment for it either.
Awesome, man. I like that explanation too. I'm excited about, and I really like the fact that you've obviously done your due diligence and thought about these products effectively, what to roll out first, how this ecosystem is going to play off each other. Well thought out situation compared to many of the other things that you experience in this space. So props to you on that front. Tell us about the next 6 to 12 months. We'll talk about that, and then we'll wind it down because we are now almost at 2.5 hours, my friend.
Oh, wow. All right, cool. So now we're doing our second raise. So we're in the middle of doing our second raise. We spent over a month in Dubai. It was an extremely incredible experience. We talked to dozens and dozens of different groups. I won't get into the names and the calibers of the groups, but
Right.
almost up to the government level, which was extremely exciting, completely different language, fascinating conversations that were going between back and forth. And that segment has taken up a bit of our time, but also we're coming out with our marketplace with a whole concept called Base and a whole notification center followed up with a handheld app, which is a bit of alpha for you there. Which we've been working on for quite a long time. So that's going to take the next 6 months of our time. And that's something that we're concentrating on, also expanding the team and actually scaling the company dramatically. We've been actively talking to Web2 companies to get onboarded onto Shuttlebait through our curation piece.
Right.
The way that works is because we've got such a native approach, right, through how we present our brand. And, anyone in Web2 will easily use our platform and easily straight away get onboarded onto it with a very safe and secure manner. However, they will indirectly also be exposed to the Web3 world. So think about it this way: the more brands that come onto Shuttlebait, the more exposure they are going to get, the more real interactions and organic interactions they'll be able to get, towards their brand,
Right.
and also in the same they're going to be able to recognize these individuals and actually reward them for their time. So as an example, I'm a football fan. I do support Liverpool, so does George, right? Liverpool doesn't know we exist, even though George is probably the biggest Liverpool fanatic, right? So this is one way of actually getting those two parties together.
Yeah.
Companies are getting a lot smarter, and I'd like to think so, and I do see this trend happening, which they're a lot more in tune with their consumer. whatever the consumer might be.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just referring to as a consumer for
Right.
this purpose,
Right.
communication. So by them understanding their consumer, whether that's their fan, their buyer, whoever it is, right, or advocate, by understanding what they think of the brand and where the majority wants the brand to go into, guess what? They're going to have a marketing plan for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I call it, I talk about this a lot. I think one of the biggest innovations in this space as well is brand 3.0, right? That's for the first time in history, you're really able to have these genuine two-way conversations. Because, I worked for the traditional Web2 company and spend billions of dollars just throwing shit at people, hoping that they buy. And we now have this really interesting way to monetize on both ends for the consumer side and the Web2 business side, and have an open conversation about how to achieve that, right? It's always just been companies throwing information to buy something, and now you've got two mutual parties that have monetary benefits and can build something beautiful together. So your tool helps enable that, which is cool.
Correct. And, we're leaning towards, and we are actively doing it. We want to democratize influence and brand marketing, right? So to really free up that sector, because currently with data privacy laws that have happened, as you know, that are occurring all around the world,
Yeah.
with, millions, if not billions of people opting out of automatic things that they were forced into, right? Losing that credibility, like, so, through, I'm not going to name the social media platforms and so forth, but even personally, having my personal information leaked multiple times,
Yep.
platforms, it is quite worrying, and I'm not really comfortable with that. If I'm not, if how many times on your phone have you been? This is ironic anyway, but you're talking to a friend about a product, and all of a sudden, like, YouTube or something comes up, and you get off YouTube, and all of a sudden on the side of your screen you see some sort of an advertisement that's to do with something that you spoke about, or something that you typed in, or something like that.
Right.
Anyway, all laws and all of these really interesting data points, might I add, are all leading towards people being a lot more cautious.
Yep. Yep.
People actually need to be involved directly with things that they're only interested in.
Yes, and that's the big thing, being opt-in, because, like, for instance, our community, we've built a really cool, small, intimate community based around bringing back the lost art of genuine human connection and having real connections, right? And that now we as that continues to grow, that becomes powerful of us talking to brands in a new way that's never been able to be before, particularly in Web3 too. And it'll be just interesting to see how it evolves. And yeah, I mean, I'll name names, TikTok being a massive one that people are scared about, and what they're doing with data privacy and stuff like that, right? And it's a huge thing here in the US, obviously, with everything else going on in the world. And us being able to curate a community, build trust with people, and then work with people like yourself, where we've now built a friendship and a relationship literally live online, which is a pretty magical thing. I can say, hey, I firmly believe that this guy is a human, and what he's going to create, he's going to give his best damn effort to make it the right way. That's a way different conversation than making a fucking 300 by 250 pixelated web ad that I made thousands of to tell people that they could save money on car insurance, right? That's just that's a totally different way of life. Awesome, man. Dude, such a good conversation. I have two final questions. They're very safe cake ball questions, nothing to be worried about. The first one being, unless there's anything else that you want to talk about Fusion, or did that kind of sum it up?
Hey, man. The guys, whoever's interested, can check us out. We're gonna make waves regardless, and we're on a mission that we're gonna fulfill, and just really excited to be on the same mission with everyone that's interested, and the likes of yourself as well, which we love.
Oh, dude, we're so excited. The chat's been popping the whole time. People love you, by the way. You're giving off a solid positive vibe. So, and they're gonna be excited. We're gonna win. We're gonna keep on growing together. But the two final questions, then we'll shut it out. One, since it's just me and you, and we've had such a vibey conversation. We used to get this out to cut down time, but I'll ask it. And if you don't have any, it's totally fine. But I just hammered you with questions for like 2.5 hours. Want to return the courtesy. Do you have any questions for myself? And if you don't, it's totally cool.
I do have a question for you.
All right, hit me.
My question for you is, out of all of the podcasts that you've done, all of them, one emotion, if you can put all of them in one bucket and pick up one emotion that is actually brought up, one beautiful emotion is brought out of you, and something that it's really benefited you in your life, what would that emotion be?
The emotion from...
So from everything that you've done,
everything that I've done on the podcast, what is an emotion that has benefited me? It's not an emotion, but there's kind of an emotion that attached to it. So it's this learning, man. It's this constant pursuit of learning. I learned something new, and I say this a lot. My favorite part about what we're building is I'm guaranteed twice a week that I'm going to learn from amazing people like you about how to be better. And that emotion that evokes is hope and gratitude is what I get from that. That is why we do what we do, man. I mean, it's pretty simple, and it's amazing to see and knowing that friendships like this that are born live online, just incredible to me. The amount of like what you shared today, live. I mean, shit, man, we've talked for a total of 20 to 30 minutes before this, and now we just talked for 2.5 hours about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. I mean, it's a magical thing, man. And I know that's one of my superpowers, is being able to make people feel easy and be able to connect in a genuine human way. And I just love being able to utilize that, and it gives me hope, and it makes me a better person. And it's amazing. It's not, I want to do this for the rest of my life, man. It's amazing.
Love that.
So thank you for that question. And then the final question is, you've been probably in hundreds of AMAs. You've said you've done long format conversations. Love to have feedback, thoughts about how midlife crisis was compared to other things you've done in Web3, even Web2 space.
It was real and raw.
Thanks, man. I love it. Very concise, real and raw. And that's honestly what we're going for. We want you to be able to feel like you can humanize yourself, because we do think that is the thing. This whole doxing thing was honestly, in my mind, just another marketing method for a lot of rich people to get richer and for shady people to do shady shit and make money. As this space evolves, what we just did is just critically important. And honestly, as we get more connected in the metaverse and hide behind these social media profiles, what we just did is going to become kind of a lost art. And it's kind of scary to think about that future,
Definitely. It's interesting, because these are the most important conversations. Like, you want to know what's the life behind that actual person and the facades that they're putting on, because a lot of these high-end, extremely wealthy people, they have to be protected for different reasons. And I do understand that, because things can be taken out of context and media can be used against them. Whether you bring one name up now, or whether you bring something up, the opinion that you've had 10 years ago when you weren't thinking straight, people will dig up for, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a whole thing about it.
I get that too.
When you're inside someone's house, as they say, and you see them, and you're getting to know them, it's a lot better.
Yeah, but I can tell you from 90 plus, almost 100 plus conversations at this point, people want to do it, even if they're people are social tribal people as born that way, right? People want to share stories, people want to connect, and whether if you're the president of a country, I get it, but I can't list many entrepreneurs in the Web3 space that should be scared to come on here and have an open conversation for a couple hours. And it's crazy to me that maybe a lot more people than they should convince themselves that they can't do this or they shouldn't do it, which it's kind of medicine for the soul, right, bro?
Yeah, no, definitely. And you also got to think about it this way. Some people just aren't ready, man. Like,
True.
we've gone through a lot of things in our personal lives. Like, we're ripe in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would I have done this in my mid-20s? I don't know.
No, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been able to have this conversation.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, dude. It would have been a 15-minute conversation. You would have asked me how my life was, and I've been like, it was interesting. I got drunk a lot. I went to college. I did all the things I was supposed to do, and the end, right? So, yeah, no, absolutely. And what's cool is we've now gotten to the point where we've built a robust enough network. I can now go to you and say, hey, who do you think is going to be a good fit for a show? So we now have kind of a filter through the people that we trust. So it's not this awkward conversation. We bring somebody on and it's only a 20-minute conversation. We've been pretty lucky that way, just getting the right people on the show. And that's just a natural kind of vetting process that has happened. But we did have to start somewhere, and they aren't always so beautiful. But tonight was fucking beautiful, man. So I'll do my closing comments, man, and then we'll just shut it down for the night. I mean, dude, reflect. We went through a journey. We went through a very insane, amazing journey. I'd say this everyone, but I really truly mean it. Friendship was just born, man. We're not going anywhere. We're going to continue to do what we do. We know that the content that we're creating is right. We want to work with people like you to help figure out how to get it out in an effective way so we can continue to grow our influence and share what we think are critical messages and stories like this to help people just be better at life and learn things about them. Hopefully, like I said, this conversation is an aha moment for someone that might have come to an award-torn country and, at a young age and is still holding and harboring all that resentment and not being the best person that they can be. But then they see someone like you that has, gotten through that and has been a better person and has started companies, multiple companies, and that little sliver of hope, hopefully, one day can change multiple lives just by having this. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you, sir, for being vulnerable. Like, you were insanely vulnerable over a long period of time. You're insanely busy. Thank you for your time. I know how valuable the time is. And I knew once we talked before this, we were going to have a great conversation. And it surpassed all of my expectations. So thank you for being you, brother. And I just can't wait to build and continue to grow together, man.
Thanks for having me, Mikey. And the feeling is completely mutual and reciprocated. You are raw and real, man. And I really, really appreciate you.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. And with that being said, Midlife Crisis is out for the rest of the week. We got guests next week. I don't have them off the top of my head, but pay attention to our Twitter. They will be there. We freaking love you all. I can't believe it's crazy to me. Multiple people still watching us 2 hours and 37 minutes later. I don't know. Like me, myself, I don't even think I could sit through a 2.5 hour podcast, but we got a community that does. Thank you all for being you. Midlife Crisis is out.